Hello, welcome to the Virtual Caregivers Conference, sponsored by the Caring Hearts Network, AARP, Milburn and Associates Entertainment Group, and you, our friends, our partners. It's a wonderful blessing to be a part of such an event during the National Caregivers Month. We want to celebrate our caregivers. We want you to know how much we love you and how much we appreciate you, and how we can't make it without you. Caring for one another is tantamount to us growing as a nation, as a world, as people. And this conference was founded by none other than Kevin Milburn. He is a spectacular man, a man of many gifts and talents. But what a lot of people don't know is for many years, he was a caregiver. He cared for his mother, who had Alzheimer's and breast cancer. And you don't know the toll it takes on a person to be a caregiver unless you really walk in the caregiver's shoes. The amount of detail that it takes to care for someone else, the information that's needed, the resources that are needed, so that you can also care for yourself while caring for your loved one. And we want to provide information for you today. We want to be a source of encouragement for you today. We want to be a blessing for you today. We want you to know today we appreciate you. And we want to say welcome to the Virtual Caregivers Conference. See you soon.
Today, but there is no sunshine, nothing but clouds, and it's dark in my heart, and it feels like a cold night. Today's a new day, but where are my blue skies? There is a love and a joy that you promised, but tell me it's alright. I almost gave up, but a power that I can't explain fell from heaven like a shower now. I smile, even though I hurt, see I smile. I know that it's working, so I smile. Even though I've been here for a while, I smile, smile. It's so hard to look up when you look down. Sure would hate to see you give up now. You look so much better when you smile, so smile. Today's a new day, hey. But there is no sunshine, nothing but clouds, and it's dark in my heart, and it feels like a cold night. Today's a new day, but tell me where are my blue skies? Where is the love and the joy that you promised to tell me it's alright? I almost gave up, but a power that I can't explain fell from heaven like a shower now. Right now, I smile, even though I hurt, see I smile. I know that it's working, so I smile. Even though I've been here for a while, I smile, I smile. It's so hard to look up when you look down. Sure would hate to see you give up now. You look so much better when you smile. Smile for me. Can you just smile for me? Smile for me. Can you just smile for me? Oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you smile. Even though it hurts me, I smile. Our God is working, so I smile. Even though I've been here for a while, I smile, I smile. It's so hard to look up when you've been down. Show the hate you see to give it now. You look so much better when you smile. So smile, oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you, oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you, oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you, ooh, you look so much better when you, oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you, oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you, oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you, oh, oh, oh. You look so much better when you smile.
Hi guys, welcome to the 2020 Caregivers Conference, Virtual Caregivers Conference, sponsored by the Caring Hearts Network and Milburn and Associates Entertainment Group, and we are partnering with AARP, and so we are excited that you have joined us on today. Want to just remind everyone to keep smiling, because this is a wonderful day, a wonderful month where we celebrate caregivers for the tireless work that they do, the work that they do day after day. And so we are here. We've got some great speakers, some great talent. Did you like that song? That song was amazing. But I'm going to ask you to do something for me at this time. If you would do me a favor, go onto your social media platforms and begin to share. Also, if you have time, press a couple of likes and a couple of hearts. Let us know that you're out there. Again, my name is Kevin Milburn. I am the host for this great event and also the producer. I'm the author of Me, Mom, and Alzheimer's. If those of you, I understand caregiving and I understand the complexities of it. And so this is why this event was even inspired, so that caregivers know, especially during this time, while we're in a pandemic, it is important that you all know that you are loved, that you're not by yourself, that you have people out there in the world that understand right where you're at. So it's been over 20 some years since I was a caregiver to my mother, and I still remember the journey, and it was very dear to my heart, and that's why I wanted to be able to bring this platform to you in November when it's National Family Caregivers Month. And so I'm excited. I've got some wonderful friends that have joined, professionals that are going to talk to you today, give you insight, resources, share their testimonies. We got some live music. We've got some recorded music. Got some artists, amazing artists, and so we're going to get started. So again, do me a favor. Start sharing on your social media platforms. Tell your friends, come on in, check this out. We're excited because I'm going to say that this is the first annual Virtual Caregivers Conference here in November. Again, brought to you by the Caring Hearts Network, Milburn and Associates Entertainment Group, and we're partnering with AARP on today. And so we're very, very excited to bring this platform to you. So let's get started. The first guest on our list is Dr. Denise Burkhart. And so I'm excited. Not only is she a friend and a sister, but she is an entrepreneur like none other. She is a spark. Let me tell you, come on in here. She makes the best salad. She has a business where she makes gourmet salads, and I'm sure she can tell you about that later. But anyway, I am excited. How many know that it is important? Mental wellness is very important, and so I just want to let you know that you're important, and it's important to take care of yourself, and that's why we're bringing all these wonderful people in to share stories, help you get to the space that you need to. So I'm excited. So at this time, guys, I know you're at home, but can you do me a favor? Can you put your hands together for Denise Burkhart as she comes on to the stage? Hi, Denise.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you?
I am feeling good like a young lady should.
Well, it is great to see you on today. Welcome to the Caregivers Conference, and thank you for even agreeing to come and be a part of this great event. And so, again, just thank you. I know you understand the journey of caregiving because you were a caregiver at one time. And so, At this time, guys, I'm going to fall off the screen and I'm going to just give you the platform so you could share with the wonderful caregivers and the friends and families that are out there. So, guys, at this time, I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Denise Burkhart.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. First, I would like to say thank you so very much. I'm honored to be here at the Virtual Caregivers Conference. Happy Caregivers Month to all the caregivers. First, I want to start out by saying how I became a caregiver. It was just thrust upon me without any warning. It was a Friday, and my mom just casually came into the kitchen. She said, Denise, I have to have surgery on Monday. And I knew she had been going to a couple of doctor's visits. And she said, they found cancer and I had to have a hysterectomy on Monday. I said, Mom, why didn't you tell me? She said, I just, didn't want to bother you, didn't want to startle you, didn't want to upset you. But it ended up she had uterine cancer, which is sometimes called endometrial cancer. And what that is abnormal bleeding in the vagina. Once you go through menopause, this was something that was happening to her. So on that Monday, I called Los Angeles Unified School District. I was teaching at that time, called in, and I took my mom to surgery. I ended up having to take off for about 6 weeks for FMLA. And then after that, she healed and my life returned back as I knew it. And then 2 years later, the cancer returned. And this time it proved to be inoperable. And I had just bought a house and had a wonderful housewarming. And we were also scheduled to go on a cruise. And the doctor said, okay, I'll give you permission to go on this cruise. However, when your mom comes back, she has to start chemotherapy. So once again, I had to notify my school and I went out on FMLA. And so my mom began her chemotherapy treatments. And I tell you, it really was doing a number on her body. She was so weak. At times, she began to develop mouth sores. And I took my mom to all of her doctor's appointments, all of her all of her chemo appointments. I cooked and cleaned. I helped bathe her. And at one point, her health began to rapidly decline. She lost a tremendous amount of weight and she was admitted into the hospital. Well, one thing I did as her caregiver, I moved right along into the hospital with her. I am so grateful. Shout out to Kaiser Irvine for having individual private rooms and a couch that I could just sleep on. And I stayed with my mother in the hospital for 3 weeks. I left the hospital one time. I went home to get all my clothes, and I stayed in the hospital with my mother for 3 weeks because I wanted to be her advocate. Anytime the doctor came in, if he had any questions, if he wanted to know what type of medication she had been taking, I wanted to be there. I mean, I would go down to the cafeteria and eat. I would take a shower in her room. I just wanted to be an advocate. And as soon as they released her from the hospital, they didn't release her home. They released her into a rehabilitation center, which was nearby. And so if I could, I would have spent the night at the rehabilitation center. But no, they sent me home. But I was there first thing in the morning, and I stayed with her all the way until it was time to close. One of the times they actually had to put me out. So I want to say, don't be like me. Do not be like me. Ask for help. There were times that I was experiencing compassion fatigue and I just didn't know it. I was scared that if I left her, she might die in the care of someone else, and I would just live with that guilt for the rest of my life. So don't have those irrational thoughts that a person might pass away just because you are gone to do a self-care day. There are agencies out there that can help you. Matter of fact, there's in-home supportive services that can help you. Also, when it came to financial, in-home supportive services is a service where they will pay you to take care of a loved one if they meet all the requirements. There's financial requirements. There's a whole set of criteria. But I just was like, no, nobody has to pay me to take care of my mom. But looking back retrospectively, that was a resource that I possibly could have used. So once again, don't be like me. I want to give you the definition of compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is a condition characterized by emotional and physical exhaustion, leading to a diminished ability to empathize or feel compassion for others, often described as a negative cost of caring. It is sometimes referred to as a secondary traumatic stress. So compassion fatigue can start to take a toll on you physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And some of the common symptoms are chronic and physical exhaustion, irritability, difficulty sleeping, weight loss, and headaches. And this is you as the caregiver. So I want you to remember you have to build in time for self-care. Reach out to a family member. Now, I have a brother, but at that time, I didn't reach out. I didn't ask him, could you come in and help me? I did not ask him at all. I just, in my mind, like, no, you have to be here to take care of this. And also, in addition to being a caregiver, other professionals that also experience compassion fatigue are therapists, nurses as well. They deal with it day in, day out. Our therapists deal with it day in and day out. So, some of the things that you can do if you become compassion fatigue or to try to prevent it is to exercise regularly, make a commitment to do that, develop healthy eating habits, get restful sleep. I know sometimes when you're taking care of a loved one, you can't always sleep throughout the night because you have to keep one eye open on them. Develop positive coping strategies and reach out to support groups and networks that are also going through the same thing so you can feel supported in that area. And another thing I want to bring into play, be honest about how you are feeling. Stop pretending like you're okay. Now, this term I learned about maybe about a month ago. I had never heard of it, but avoid toxic positivity. I've never heard of this term until I read an article by licensed marriage family therapist Keandra Jackson. When I first heard the term, I was like, well, what do you mean? Is it toxic to be positive? No, let me read to you the definition of toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is a phrase that's used to describe the behavior of maintaining optimism, hope, and good vibes despite being in a negative or stressful situation. That is toxic positivity. You have a loved one that is going through chemotherapy, they're in a hospital, they're losing a rapid amount of weight, their health is declining rapidly. No, you're not okay. So find someone that you could be honest with about your feelings. I know when someone usually asks how we're doing, a lot of times we say, "Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. I know I'm good no matter what anyone says to me." When they ask me how I'm doing, I would say, "Oh, I'm feeling good," like a young lady should, no matter what is going on in my life. So I want you to resist toxic positivity and find someone that you can open up to about how you are really feeling. And it is not good to suppress those negative emotions like fear, concern, worry, sadness, and anxiety. Those are real emotions. So don't suppress that because you can really have a meltdown. This is a transparent moment. Maybe about a month ago, I was invited on a global platform to talk about grief and loss. And in the middle of a call, I had a meltdown because I had been neglecting myself, doing toxic positivity, acting like everything was okay. And what happened, I had experienced a loss back to back to back of three people that I have known practically all my life. They passed away, and I didn't take time to process my emotions. And on that very line, I began to melt down when I began to talk about the loss of my dad. So I want you to make sure you take time for some self care and take time to journal and process your feelings. And I even end up going, in addition to asking for a prayer from my pastor and first lady, I actually end up going to a grief and loss counselor to process my feelings. Why did I have the meltdown? To try to make sense of all of what was happening. So it is okay to go out and get professional help if you are struggling. Also, I want to talk about emotional agility. You have to have emotional agility when you are a caregiver. Let me give you the definition of emotional agility. Emotional agility is the ability to manage your emotions and thoughts in a way that makes you more effective at doing what you're doing. Emotional agility has been known to reduce stress, sorry about that, increase confidence and resilience. It is extremely difficult to be a caregiver. And you're going to need to take time out to take care of yourself. And as you are being a caregiver, do not lose yourself in the process. It is okay. I give you permission to take respite care. Some people may have never heard of that term, but if you are a caregiver, you have to make a lot of critical decisions for your loved one, a lot of medical decisions, and sometimes it begins to take a toll on your own body. So I'm going to give you the definition of respite care. Respite care provides temporary relief for a primary caregiver, enabling you to take much needed breaks from the demands of caregiving of the sick or aging person. It can be arranged just for an afternoon, or it could be arranged for several days or for a couple of weeks. So remember to reach out if you need help to another loved one. Also, respite care could be provided from a healthcare facility. In this day in COVID, I know they're doing things differently, but overall, what I want to stress to you is to reach out for help. Do not be like me. Don't try to do it all yourself. Like I said, I never asked my brother. I think I asked him one time to come to the hospital because I had to go home and I wanted to wash my clothes and come back to the hospital. But I could have asked him, could you come and sit for a couple of hours with mom? But I didn't. I just felt like I had to take care of everything for whatever reason. My mom was like my best friend. So I just felt like I had to be there for her every second of the day. So once again, don't forget to take care of yourself. Just taking a walk. You might not have an opportunity to go outside and take a walk, but you could do some type of exercise in the house. So just remember, you are not alone. There's support for you out there. And I want once again want to wish everybody a happy Caregivers Month. And so you are back in the hands of Kevin. And I hope this was very helpful. Let me give my information of where you can reach me. I can be reached at www.deniseburkhart.com. Also, I have a book that I am part of the compilation project. I wrote a chapter in there called Broken But Not Beyond Repair, Grieving the Loss of a Loved One. So you can get that book on my website, www.deniseburkhart.com. If someone could put that in the chat, www.deniseburkhart.com. You could get the Inspired compilation book. It's a couple of stories in there of women that are overcomers. And I definitely am a overcomer. You could be broken, but not beyond repair. So you are back in the hands of Kevin, and thank you again for having me.
Oh my gosh, Denise, Dr. Denise Burkhart, thank you for your story. Thank you for your empowerment and your encouragement. I want to tell you, I was sitting here going, "Wow, you don't know, you know individuals, but you don't always know what they've gone through or what they've been through." And to hear your story, I totally can relate. And so many caregivers that are out there on today, I know that you can relate to. And so, thank you for your story. Thank you for the amazing gift that you are to people all around. You're a gift to, again, my wife and I, we just absolutely love you, and we just appreciate you for all that you do. So, again, you guys, please visit Denise's website. Please support her as an entrepreneur, as an author. She's in the travel industry. Look her up, please. Once we get things back together and we're traveling, she's the person that you need to talk to. So at this time, we're gonna chat later. If you stay, she's gonna go backstage right now, but we're gonna connect with everybody at the end of the conference. But thank you, Denise. And right now, I am just I'm excited. I just want to because I want you to encourage you, smile, giggle, and be silly. Put a smile on your face right now. Go get your coffee. Go get a snack. Right now, we're getting ready. How many know that financial fitness and wellness is important? And one of the things that I realized, and I'll share later when we get to the segment of Let's Talk Caregiving with Kevin Milburn, because that's going to be a moment when I get to be transparent. There's some funny moments, some low moments, but as a caregiver, there are certain things that you should think about. A lot of people, when we're caregiving, we get caught up in the moment and we're caring for our loved ones and we forget about ourselves. And so one of the questions at a caregivers conference that I was at, I was asked, what would you tell the younger Kevin? And so when we get to Let's Talk Caregiving, I'm going to tell you what I would have told the younger Kevin then, now that I'm older and wiser and better. Again, self care is important. And so just like self-care, financial wellness is a part of that self-care. And so on today, I am excited because Alfreda Jones Moore is a mother and trusted licensed financial consultant with more than 20 years in the financial industry. And what I love about Sister Alfreda, I call her my sister because we're friends, and she's my sister. She invited me to a caregivers conference to tell my story. And what was so amazing, we have had a great relationship over the years, and she is helping people in the communities and the church and several organizations to be mindful of financial fitness. And so yeah, I'm excited about this, and I'm excited that she's going to come to you and share with you about ways that you should think. For those of you that are not caregiving, but to have a financial success. But just so that I believe as a caregiver, one thing that I can say while we're going to transition and have her come on, that everyone will experience some type of caregiving experience in their life. Everyone. And so I encourage you not to wait till it's in your face. Look at it for what it is. Understand that caregiving is a part of life. I come from a long legacy of caregivers, because we, in my family, we believe in taking care of our elderly until that we just couldn't possibly do it. But we my great grandmother lived to be 102, and we cared for her and my grandmother, and so the time I was 16. So anyway, at this time, I'm going to ask that we're going to go backstage, and Sister Alfreda's going to come on. Alfreda Moore, guys, can you put your hands together for her as she comes? Yes! Hey!
Thank you. Hey, Kevin.
Oh my goodness.
Pleasure.
Listen, I am so glad that you are here today. Thank you for being a part of this amazing team. And, listen, I'm excited. I can't wait to hear you. So I'm going to just give you the floor, and you do what you do, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, you guys. Alfred.
All right. Love you. I love Kevin so much. Kevin is such an inspiration to me, and I am excited to be here with you all as well. Always excited to share with you all the information that we have and that we know that will make your life better. So as I listened to the presentation that came before me and talked about her experience and knowing Kevin's experience, I just want to share just a couple of things with you about how to prepare. It's very important that we prepare. And of course, again, my name is Alfreda Moore. That's my website. If you want to go to my website and check out some of the resources there, feel free to do so. So the question that I want to ask today is, are you prepared for an extended medical event? I know that we're talking about caregiving and we're talking about those things that affect caregivers, but any person can experience an extended medical event without being, having dementia or having a heart attack or things like that. Are we prepared for an extended medical event? And there are surveys that are done. 84% of baby boomers are like myself in our 50s, are not prepared. And it's normal. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's normal, because these are things that, we just don't have normal conversations about at work, at school, in college. Half of the people that are middle income, doing okay for themselves, feel like they're not prepared for a long-term care event. Also, one of the things that people kind of have a misconception about is that Medicare will pay for long-term care insurance, and it doesn't. What Medicare does, Medicare will pay for up to 90 days of care. After that, Medicare considers you in a long-term care event, and they will cease to pay for any Medicare long-term care expenses, such as someone to come in and take care of you, a long-term care facility, those types of things. So the average person, or the average need for long-term care for women, is about 3.7 years. The average long-term care situation for men is about 2.2 years. And believe it or not, 4 out of 10 young people will need, or people under 65 will need, some type of long-term care in their lifetime. The cost of long-term care, as my brother Kevin talks about so many times, is expensive. The average cost of long-term care in California is $109,000 a year. That is a lot of money. 9 million Americans today are experiencing some type of long-term care situation. Some of the myths about long-term care is that health insurance will cover the cost. Another myth is that Medicare will cover the cost. We talked about that. Some believe that Medicare and Medicaid are the same thing and they will cover the cost. Now, Medicaid will cover the cost of long-term care insurance. However, you have to have nothing in order for Medicare to kick in and pay. So we know that a lot of us have income enough to where we don't qualify for Medicaid, and Medicaid will only pay if you're pretty much destitute. Yeah, another myth is that I'm too young to have a medical expense. Most of the time, young people who are prone to accidents will have a long-term care event. You may not get sick of a heart attack, or you may not have dementia, but how many of you know a young person who have been in a car accident, a skiing accident, or something like that, and had to have care for a long period of time? It happens. So, as Kevin said, planning is important. Why is planning important for long-term care and chronic care? You don't have to have a long-term care incident to need those types of to be in that type of situation. You can have a chronic care, which means that you have a chronic condition, a condition that lasts a very long time. I'm not sure if you all can. Okay, I guess I'm not sure if we have my slides up or not, but what a long-term care will look like if you don't plan is all of these things start to hit you. Assisted living facilities, sometimes if you're not familiar with those. So going into a long-term care experience is an experience that is unfamiliar to you. And when you get in those situations, things happen that you don't necessarily know would have happened at that time. There are therapists, there are all types of expense. Hygiene expense. I heard one of my clients just talk about the hygiene expense that they needed to do. The adult diapers that were very expensive for them. Supervised care, managed care, just activities alone. Residential care, insurance, hospice care, as the the doctor spoke about earlier, paid caregiving, taxes, dressing, elderly, just all kinds of things can hit you at once and cause great stress. On-site care, nurses coming to the home, doctors calling, all of those are long-term care expenses that we don't think about, and they can really cause a lot of stress if we don't plan for those. Why is planning so important? Planning is important so that you will have peace of mind, and so that your caregiver, as a caregiver, will have peace of mind if there is planning done ahead. So it saves you money. It gives you options when you plan ahead. You have peace of mind for you. You have peace of mind for your family. You're able to live a better quality of life when you plan ahead. How many of you know that are on this line that are caregivers understand without finances the quality of care that you receive as a person who is receiving care, and also the quality of life that you live as a caregiver can be diminished if proper planning is not done ahead of time. So what does it mean? Okay, it's okay. What does it mean what happens when we plan ahead for caregiving expenses? The cost is a lot less. So you can plan ahead to where the older we get, let's just be real. The older we get, the more things cost when it comes to healthcare and when it comes to insurance too. Sometimes getting that insurance is not possible because of our declining health. And what does long-term care pay for? Long-term care can pay for you to be assisted at home, assisted at a community facility. Sometimes there are adult daycare facilities that you can take your loved one to. Assisted living facilities are an option, and nursing homes also are an option. Most people want to be cared for at home. Long-term care insurance will enable you to be cared for at home. The other insurance that I wanted to tell you about, in addition to long-term care, is hospital indemnity. Hospital indemnity insurance. Did you know that you can buy a policy that pays for hospitalization when you're in the hospital? There are policies through Aflac and through all types of other insurance companies that will pay for just hospitalization. There are policies that will pay for cancer and specified disease. I encourage, when I first came into the insurance business, I don't care who I was sitting in front of and what they wanted. I showed them a cancer policy, because cancer is just is like getting the flu these days. You don't have to die from it anymore. It's no longer a dread disease. It's no longer a terminal disease in many cases, but it is very common for a person to contract cancer. Cancer policies are very important. There are cancer policies that will help with long-term care issues. There are critical illness policies that are not as expensive as long-term care insurance, and they will pay for things that critical illness that arise from heart attacks, that arise from stroke, that arise from end-stage renal failure, that arise from all of these different situations. Life insurance. Really want to talk about life insurance. Life insurance, if you have life insurance, if you have those policies with you, we encourage some of you to bring your policies with you. Now, if you have your life insurance policies with you, we're going to go through in a couple of slides some of the things that you can look for if you're in a long-term care situation right now, or you're caring for someone in a long-term care situation. You can take advantage of those policies right now. But the different types of long-term care policies, and I'm going to go over them quickly because we don't have a lot of time: individual term policies, group term policies, whole life policies, and universal policies. Well, let me just touch on them. Whole life policy, I'm sorry, term life policies are temporary policies. Term life policies are like rent. You purchase them and they cover you for a specific time, typically 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You can get a term life policy at work. You can get a term life policy from an agent. You can get a term life policy online. They're very inexpensive, and they typically have guaranteed premiums for a specific amount of time. Some insurance companies have what we call a convertibility on their policies, which means that you can convert them from a term life to whole life before the policy ends. But the important thing to remember is that it is a temporary policy. All right. So then we have universal life policies. Universal life policies is kind of like a whole life policies in that it builds cash value that you can pull from. You can have a universal life policy that pays you for your whole life as long as you pay the premiums. Universal life policies, the premiums are flexible. You can pay as little sometimes as the policy allows, or you can add more to the premiums as the policy allows. The death benefit is flexible. You have to be careful, though, about pulling cash value out of a universal policy because they are designed so that the cash value pays for the insurance. When you start to take cash out of a universal policy, you will, in many cases, lapse the policies. There are incidents where that won't happen, but just be careful when you do that. Make sure you talk to your agent. Make sure you talk to them and understand what doing that will cost. Whole life policies, same thing. They pay for your whole life. You have insurance for your whole life as long as you pay the premiums. You can pull cash value out of a whole life policy. Why is that important? Because in a long-term care insurance, you may need extra cash. In any situation, you may need extra cash. There are other reasons that you want to pull cash out, but we're talking about a long-term care situation right now. So in a long-term care situation, having that cash value to pull from may be very important to your care and paying for care. Riders, here's where I want to really dig in. If you have your policy, I want you to go to the section that explains all of the riders. One of the most important riders on a life insurance policy is the accelerated death and living benefit when it comes to long-term care. An accelerated and living benefit means that you can access your life insurance policy before something happens, before there is a death. And most of them will allow you to access up to 90% of your death benefit. So if you have a life insurance policy that's $500,000 and a doctor says to your family member or to you that you only have 12 months to live, or you only have 9 months to live, you can access that benefit right away. You may live another 3 years or another 5 years, because we know that God has the final say. But if the doctor says it, whether he knows God will hear you or not, you can access that benefit. The other thing is waiver of premium. If you're in a situation where you cannot work, typically for 6 months or more, you will not have to pay those premiums, but the life insurance will still continue on. I have clients, every time I sit down with my clients, we always review their policies, especially if they're ill, because I want to know, do you have that waiver of premium rider on your policy to where it pays for your insurance? It's okay. It's okay. They haven't received my but it's okay. I'll make the PowerPoint available to you all afterwards. And if you have any questions, you can always call or put it in chat, and I'll try to answer it. So the long-term care, the chronic illness benefit as well. Chronic illness benefits means that if you have a chronic care situation, you can access up to 90% of your policies as well. So a chronic illness is something that you're not going to recover from, within a year, or you're not going to recover from over time. So you have a stroke or you have a heart attack and you have to have care for an extended period of time, but you're able to take care of yourself, you're able to dress yourself or whatever, but you're not able to work. Those are chronic illnesses, and there are riders on there. Again, you can access your death benefit before time. Term conversions we talked about. So if you have a term life policy, you can, if you have a term life policy, you can convert that to some whole life policy to where your insurance will not end, and you don't have to take another medical exam. Accidental death. A lot of times policies will have accidental death benefits. So accidental death benefits will double or will increase your benefit if you die of an accident versus natural causes. Unemployment riders are on your life insurance. If you have just like now, you're in COVID, you're not working, you've been laid off, check your life insurance policies to see if they have an unemployment rider. Because if they have an unemployment rider, that means that you don't have to pay those premiums. They will continue to pay your premiums until you're able to work again. Option to purchase paid up additions. This is important for whole life policies. If you have that rider on your policy, you're able to purchase paid up whole additions so that you don't have to do another medical, but you can increase your benefit. Spouse option riders. If something happens to you, you die, your spouse can now get a paid up policy based on what you already had. Non-forfeiture options. This is an option that will keep your policy from lapsing if you have a whole life policy. A company will take some of that life insurance, take some of that guaranteed cash value and start to pay that policy for you so it doesn't lapse. There are different things that they'll do with that, but that's what that. And then the return of premium rider. Most term life policies, you can get a return of premium rider on it if you know that you're only going to have a 20-year term, and at the end of that 20-year term, you don't feel like you need insurance. You can get a return of premium rider so that some of that benefit, some of that money you can get back. So just think about those things. If you have questions, let me know. I'm willing. I know that this is pretty quickly. We're going through it. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about is annuities. Annuities are a contract with an insurance company that you give them a lump sum of money, or you give them money and give them money over time. It is for your retirement. They, in exchange for, say, $100,000, they will give you back over $100,000 if you live long enough. They will give you an income for life. For life. Annuities are income that it works like a pension plan. You'll have an income for life. However, here's something that you can do with that annuity income. You can purchase long-term care with that. When you purchase your long-term care with your annuity, once your long-term care incident starts, you have your long-term care benefit, but your annuity income payments still continue. So now you have two pots of income to pull from. You have that annuity income and you have that long-term care benefit to pull from. You also have death benefits with annuities. I'm not going to go into the annuities. There's a lot that you can do with annuity. I just wanted you to know that you can use those to purchase your long-term care insurance with them as well. That's one way of being able to afford them. I pray that what I've said to you was beneficial. I pray that it helped you in some way. My website, if you want to go to my website and get more information, is www.aajones.com. I'm sorry, aajones.com is my website. My email address is aajonesmore@gmail.com. If you want to contact me by phone, 562-653-6758. If you want me to review those policies with you to see if there's something that we can find to help you in a situation like a long-term care event, let me know. Just give me a call. Also, for those of you that do call and want to do that, I have a portfolio that I want to give you all, and it helps you to organize everything you have. It's a file folder, and it will help you to organize everything you have, or your life insurance, everything. And on the front of it, it will show you, it will allow you to list every single important document that you have. So when something happens, everyone in your family will know where those things are. So that concludes my presentation. I'm going to put my information in the chat. I am sorry that I had some technical difficulties and didn't get my presentation to you, but hopefully hopefully you were able to understand everything that I said, and I thank you. So Kevin, we're back in your hands. Hopefully.
Oh my gosh. Alfreda, thank you so much for all that information. Let me tell you, it's something that everyone needs. And listen, I'm going to tell all of my friends, all of the listeners, please connect with Sister Alfreda. Her information, you need this information because it's going to help you look down the road into the future. And so she has a plethora of information, and she can walk with you through it, give you answers to your questions. And so we're gonna join back later in the conference. But again, you guys look in the chat, get the information, and we'll have all the information at the end so that you can update your notes and connect with all of these great presenters on today. So thank you, Alfreda. Thank you so much. It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. So we're moving along. I hope that there's something that's being said that is inspiring you or motivating you and uplifting you. Listening to both the presenters brought me back 20 plus years ago, and so I'm just gonna be real candid and open. My mother always had the conversation about death. Like everybody has to go. And so when I was 16, my mother was like, okay, so this is what you need to know. You need to know that if something happens to me, the burial is paid for. You're gonna go, and if something happens to me, you're gonna be with your sister and your brother-in-law, and And I was like, Mom, why are you talking like that? Why are you? I don't want to hear about that. And so you never think, you never think. And at the age of 50, mid 50s, my mother began to show signs of dementia. And at that time, either Alzheimer's or dementia. And I remember you know her asking questions and being forgetful, and which then launched a journey. My mother was young. I mean, who thinks that in your mid 50s um, that you would start showing signs of dementia? And so it began the journey. My point is that I didn't know by my mom having the conversation. There was the conversation about life insurance, and my mother had life insurance. About burial, she had the conversation. So when that time came and that journey began for me to have to, and I'm going to tell you more about my story. Let's talk caregiving in that segment. But my mother, there was two things: dealing with Alzheimer's and breast cancer, and just life altogether being altered. And so one of the things I am so glad to bring people on like Dr. Denise and Alfreda to be able to give you the resources that you need, because sometimes you don't know that you need it. You don't know that you need it now, but when you're in it, like we were thrown into caregiving, like Denise said, Dr. Denise said, we were thrown into it. I mean, even though that I helped with my grandmother, my mom, we all helped with my great grandmother and our grandmother, but no one thought that Mama was going to get sick, not that soon. Who would have thought? And for me, I was a young man, an aspiring singer, trying to, get into the career of music, and who would have thought that everything came that would shut down? I had a band, I was doing my thing, and it all just came to a screeching halt. There was a bigger picture. I get it now, but in the midst of it, it was heart-wrenching. One of the things that I talk about in my book is going through grief while your parent is still living. Because I experienced grief of my mother, yet my mother was alive, but the woman that she was, I was losing her. So I went through all different emotions, all different feelings. Never had been in that space before. Never had been in that space. You know, and you know, again, Sister Denise, she mentioned about communication. Communication is important because there were certain things that I didn't say. You know, I didn't have enough strength to be able to say, I need you. I need help. You know, and there's so many different layers, but my point is that Sister Alfreda had brought you information to help you. And again, I'm going to share with you later about what would I tell the younger Kevin. And so, anyway, we're moving fast in this conference. I'm hoping that things are really touching you, inspiring you, motivating you, uplifting you. I want to encourage you to continue to smile and giggle and find a space in the conference where it's giving you like some aha moments. And at this time, my wife Tanny, is going to come on now and share with you about our next guest.
I apologize. My mic is muted. Exactly what we're not supposed to do. I'm so glad you guys have joined us for the Virtual Caregivers Conference. I hope you are enjoying yourselves. It's so nice to share and to know and to understand you're not alone and that we can make it together. I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing an amazing songwriter, an amazing producer, an amazing artist. Her name is Charmel Cofield. Um, Many of the artists you have seen and heard, she has written for hit records for, from Beyonce to Mary J. Blige, to Tweet, gospel artists, Kelly Rowland. There's many other artists, different genres of music. But what a lot of people don't know about Charmel Cofield is she is a spectacular artist herself. She dropped a new album called Charmel, hit the Billboard charts. She was at the top of the charts when her album came out. Another thing people don't know about Charmel, though, is she had a career in caring for elderly patients. She cared for them from the time they were in their home environment, sometimes in a hospice position, until they closed their eyes and went home. And she has a compassion and a heart for people. She is an amazing caregiver. She has a ministry that helps refresh you, strengthen you, give you the courage to face another day. And I thank God for Charmel. She's also one of my favorite people in the planet, one of my favorite friends. But you're going to enjoy her ministry. You're going to enjoy her music. So I'd like to introduce to you Charmel Cofield.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Oh, please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not If you need a hand, we all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Oh, if there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road and I'll share that load if you just call me. Yeah, call me if you need a friend. Call me if you need a hand. I'll be right there if you call me. Whatever you need, I will be right there, baby. Just call me, yeah. Please call me, yes.
Woo! That was amazing. Yes. Lean on me. Woo! Yes. We might have to play that at the end of the conference because whoa, man, it left me speechless. Thank you, Charmel, for that video, that performance. You are an amazing gift to the industry and just people everywhere. So we love you here at Caring Hearts Network. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is the 2020 Virtual Caregivers Conference brought to you by Milburn and Associates Entertainment Group and Caring Hearts Network. And so also partnering with the WARP. I was going to say in Cincinnati, but that's not what it is. But we are so excited on today as we are moving forward with AARP. One of our dear friends, Lee Broadway, who is a part of the AARP, she's a caregiver advocate, creator and host of the 50 Plus Talk. Leah Broadway partnered with AARP as a caregiver advocate and legislative liaison in 2016. As a caregiver advocate, she serves in Orange County, Los Angeles. She also visits with her assigned Assembly, Senate, and congressional informants to keep them informed of current legislations that are impacting the 50-plus community. She is also conducting the Prepare to Care presentations. And so today, I'm excited to bring Lee on. Again, she's going to talk about Prepare to Care. And Lee, are you there? Hi, how are you? It's so good to see
Wonderful.
you.
Good morning. I'm so
Oh
thrilled
my
to be a part of the conference, Kevin. Thank you.
Listen, I am so glad. So Lee and I were able to connect with each other by way of Alfreda, who had a conference. And so, we're all connected. We stay connected. And so I could not have a conference without involving Lee. She is amazing presenter. She's a celebrity listen, she's the 50 plus advocate for everyone, and she's just an amazing. She brings a light. She comes into the room and just is a light, a breath of fresh air. And so at this time, I am going to just give the platform to you, Lee. You go as you do as you do, and we'll talk later, okay?
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. Well, first of all, I want to thank Kevin for inviting me to share today. And also, I'm grateful to be a part of AARP. I'm going to be presenting Prepare to Care. As we heard earlier, early preparation is key when you become a caregiver, because as I write in my blog, caregiving for me showed up on my doorstep like an out-of-town uninvited guest. I didn't expect to be caring for my father in my mid-40s. And it came upon me in a time when I was busy with my career. I was a banker and involved in life and thinking about moving forward in some areas where I was, beginning to grow into thinking about buying a house, getting married, and my dad needed me. But I want to just emphasize today, first of all, how much we love you, how much we care for you. We're here today, as you've heard, to share important information and resources on how to prepare yourself early, how to care for yourself. We heard about self-care, making sure that you have people around you who can help you, who can encourage you, who can pray for you. As many of you know, I'm an intercessor, and I pray for the people who come into my website, people that are reaching out, needing to feel like they're not alone. So I want you to know today you're loved and appreciated. And during November, which is National Caregiver, Unpaid Family Caregiver Month, we want to make sure that you know that we're here to support you and here to provide as many resources as possible. Today in Prepare to Care, we're going to go through some very important steps on preparing yourself in various areas that you'll encounter as you enter into the special calling of being a family caregiver. So without further ado, I'm going to begin to share the information in the slides, and this will take you through the process of understanding who to bring into your group, you know, your team, how to form that team, what areas you'll need to concern yourself with in terms of early preparation and strategic planning, and understanding some of the challenges you'll experience, and providing some of the solutions to help you care well for the ones you love and also care for yourself. So we can move to the next slide. All right, so family caregivers, I'm gonna put on my glasses because I can't see too well without them. There we go. Family caregivers provide a lot of services to the people they love: emotional support and companionship, household tasks, which you can see include cleaning, laundry, yard work. It could be shopping for groceries, personal care, bathing, dressing. Most of these fall under what they call the 5 activities of daily living. You've also heard the term perhaps ADLs. And so you may be helping facilitate the medications, taking over the financial aspects of the one that you love, so that you can get their bills paid and keep them financially solvent, cooking or buying food, coordinating their care. When I was a caregiver, I coordinated my dad's medications, his doctor's appointments, his living arrangements, everything that we're going to talk about today. I experienced over a 14-year time frame as I cared for my father from 1997 to 2011 when he passed on. So communicating with health professionals, which is extremely important. We'll talk a little bit more about that and some of the nuances that you want to consider when you're talking and developing relationships with your loved ones' physicians and those who are caring for them. Coordinating the care, whether that's within your family unit, it could be an outside resource. It's a little more challenging now with COVID-19. Some of the resources for coordinating that care that were available, adult daycare centers and so on, it's a little harder to access because of the pandemic. Driving to appointments. Transportation's a big deal because if you work full-time, like most caregivers work full-time, I believe the figure is like 61% of folks who care for someone actually hold a full-time job. So if you're not able to take off work, you have to hire someone to do that if your loved one isn't ambulatory and cannot facilitate their own ability to walk and move around and get on and off a bus or any type of other medical transport. So we're going to talk about all these areas in great detail. Okay, we're ready for the next slide, please. And by the way, all of this information is available at aarp.org/caregiving later. But let's talk about the 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. I'm going to give you some quick statistics. Now, Rosalind Carter, maybe a lot of you don't know this, but she lost her father when she was very young, when she was about 12, and she cared for him while he was ill. So she became a caregiver very early on in life. And it's estimated that there are about 53 million caregivers currently in the United States. This is based on current AARP research and data. About 40% of those unpaid family caregivers are men. So it's not just for the ladies now, the men are coming in and they're caring for their loved ones. But caregivers now, based on AARP research and data, span all generations. This includes not only boomers, but Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, And most of these folks, about 61%, hold a full-time job, and many of the millennials are currently students. So the cost, the expense, not only in time and financial responsibilities are falling on people in virtually every demographic now. So this is a very important discussion. Next slide, please. Prepare to care. So what we want to do is give you some practical information that you can use. You can take and use and begin to prepare yourself and your family properly so that if someone becomes ill or in the natural course of life, we all begin some type of physical decline because we're not built to reside in these bodies forever. And so at some point we need to make sure that we're putting all of the resources in place and the information that we'll need to make sure that we can care for each other well. Next slide, please. So the question is, are you prepared to care? And so that's why we're here today and hosting our virtual caregivers conference to make sure that you're prepared to care. Next slide. All right, starting the conversation. This will, the family dynamic is different. And everyone who's listening today, you may be an only child, you may be a long distance caregiver, maybe you have an estranged relationship with a family member that now you're having to care for. So the conversation will differ from family to family, but what's important is that you begin to breach the conversation early before they begin to decline in such a way that you're scrambling for information resources. So however you relate to that loved one, for my dad and myself, we always talked about things during dinner. I would cook for him when I visited periodically before he became really ill. And we talked about some of these issues early. We didn't really go into great detail, but the important thing is to understand what they're feeling and to honor what they're feeling and to listen with intent so that when you're making plans for their future in terms of their medical health and living arrangements, they're included in the conversation. This is very important because if they don't feel like they're loved or that you're listening or that you care, they're not going to engage with you. It's like any relationship. People want to know that what they feel and what they're thinking and what their ideas are about their own situation. They want people to know that that they're respected and that it matters. What they're thinking matters and what they feel is important. So form your team. If you're fortunate enough to have a lot of siblings and family around you, that's wonderful because that means there's more opportunity for folks to help you and to jump in and maybe do the grocery shopping or the financial planning or assisting them in figuring out living arrangements. If your family member isn't really ill, but they just need a little supervision, this might be a little bit easier. Perhaps someone has an extra room in the house or you can make room for them and you have good relationships, you want them to come live with you, that's great. When someone has a chronic illness or multiple chronic illnesses, as my father experienced, that opens up a whole different conversation. So in that case, you're going to want to talk about, who would be the person to care for them in terms of either bringing them into the home or how do we go about finding an assisted living facility. If you're not able to afford $100,000 a year, which is most people, then you're going to be looking at perhaps, a situation where they're going to have to be in a long-term care facility, which Medicaid would pay for. But as you heard earlier, that's only if they're down to zero. So, and they don't have a lot of assets. So these are conversations that you must have early. So when you're making your plan, you have to think about the living arrangements, who will care for them, who's going to take care of the activities of daily living. If they're no longer ambulatory and can't get around on their own, you're going to have to consider a support system. Some folks have a strong support system within their family. I didn't have anyone local. I had different kinds of support, but I didn't have anyone with the hands-on. I was the only child present in the city where my dad lived. So all of the activities and responsibilities in terms of handling the day-to-day activities were upon me. So if you can find family members who are willing to jump in, or if you have a church family, many times they're willing to help. I had some folks who would come in and help me and sit with me and support me in the ways they were able to, outside of course, making any decisions medically, which they're not allowed to do.
And most importantly, caring for yourself and learning how to care for yourself. One of the greatest challenges of caregiving is figuring out how to find time and how to make time for yourself. And this will look different for everybody. If you're an only child or if you don't have a strong support system, you're going to be more challenged, but you have to figure out a way to find even just a half hour to take a nap, or if you work a full-time job, finding an adult daycare center where someone could look after, you know, the one that you love, your parent. Many of you are caring for veterans, and I know that there are many wonderful organizations that also can help you with respite. I know that there is the Dole Foundation, Hidden Heroes, and we could talk about all that later. And if you follow me on Twitter, I tweet a lot of those resources that you can go in and look at and contact those organizations as well. And of course, AARP. Next slide, please. Starting the conversation. So just take some time and talk to your parent. Maybe you could just sort of bring up the conversation lightly and say, oh, you know, mom or dad, how would you feel if this happened? And if this happened, what are your thoughts and your feelings about living arrangements? Are you comfortable living on your own? Would you prefer to stay in your home if possible and have us bring in a paid caregiver? Would you be more interested in getting into maybe an adult community where there are other folks in your age group where you could socialize, which is very important. And that, of course, has been a challenge during the pandemic, but socialization is very important when people are older because they tend to withdraw and become very lonely, and then depression can set in. So it's very important for you to create an opportunity for them to speak and let you know what they're feeling and what they're thinking. And however you choose to do that, over a meal is always great, or just a casual visit, and just dropping some open-ended questions. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Things of that nature are always helpful. Next slide, please. Look for an opening. We talked about that. I mentioned respecting your loved one's wishes. Very key. Understanding what's important to them and listening and being an active listener and having empathy and really trying to put your feet in their shoes and understand their fears, because as we grow older, we know a lot of unknowns. We don't always know what to expect. And of course, if they have situations where they're, you know, declining, they have a specific disease and so forth, you want to make sure you know what they're feeling and thinking and address those fears and concerns and help them to guide them into some solutions that will be comfortable and where they feel safe and loved and cared for. So you have to size up the situation based on your family dynamic and the resources that you have around you, family members, support system, and so forth, and the resources that we're providing, many which are just amazing. We've heard from some great folks today about the financial aspects of having all of the insurance. There's living wills, there's trust, and all kinds of financial aspects of caring for someone that you need to get in order. So you have to size up all of those areas to make sure that you're prepared properly to care for your loved one. Next, please. Bank accounts, investments, insurance coverage. We heard a wonderful presentation on reviewing the finances and making sure that you have access. If you're going to be the individual caring for that person, you'll need to talk to perhaps the banker at the bank and let them know if you have a power of attorney, if that's appropriate. And those are decisions. I'm not licensed and so forth, but those are discussions you want to have with your family member. All of it will depend on, of course, a relationship and the amount of assets and what needs to be handled. There are elder care attorneys, which you can reference. You can Google them. You can go to ARP, and there are resources where they can at least guide you to what you need to think about and how you can find someone who could help you address all of the financial aspects of preparing someone in case there's an emergency, because you don't want to wait until the last minute where you don't know where the papers are and all of the financial documents. You want to make sure those are all accounted for and you have addressed bank accounts, investments, insurance coverage, and other resources to prepare the financial picture properly. Next, please. Tips for starting the conversation. And, you know, there may be resistance. My dad and I really didn't have that issue because we were pretty open with each other. But in some cases, if your parent is very private and they're not accustomed to having those discussions with you, and they've kept everything to themselves. I know a lot of the folks coming from the World War II generation are very private, and they, the men took care of this, and that was that, and the women didn't get involved. So if you're a daughter caring for your dad, it might be a little different. Just depends on your relationship. I think if you just find a comfortable spot, maybe something humorous, like we used to watch TV when my dad was laughing and having a good time during the television show. I'd say, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about that?" He's in a good mood. So whatever works for you based on your relationship, you have to make that determination. But the key is to broach the subject early. Don't wait. Next slide, please. Form your team. We talked about forming a team, whether it's family members and or outside assistance from a support group. And what's important too, if you have a family member who happens to be in a particular industry, maybe they're in finance or insurance, that's a dream if you have people in your family that are already in those industries that know exactly what needs to happen. But it's important to form the team early. Most caregivers tend to be type A. We just like to take control of everything. And that's when we begin to experience burnout, or also, we heard earlier, compassion fatigue, where you try and do too much. And at the beginning of the caregiver relationship, you think you can handle it because first it's just one aspect of care. I know initially with my father, he had one medication and he just was, that was under control, and then he fell, and then he had a heart attack, and then one thing after another began to occur. And I wasn't prepared for all of those things. I thought, oh, this is easy. And then it began to escalate, from one doctor to two doctors to three. Then he had all these specialists, multiple medications, multiple doctor's appointments. You must sit down and evaluate, if this happens, are we prepared to manage the process? And you must start early. Have conversations with your family members, your brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, whoever you have in your circle, whether they're local, even long distance. Have those conversations. There may be someone that can contribute financially. Maybe they're not here, but they can provide a little extra money, outside of what your loved one may have available. Based on AARP data and research, the average Social Security recipient receives only $1,500 a month. And with the pandemic, the whole economy has shifted, and the resources, some of them have become stagnant. Caregivers have lost their jobs, and that was their only source of income. And now perhaps they were, helping provide for a parent financially. So we know, without beating a dead horse, what that looks like today. So it's important to make sure, if anyone can contribute in some way, whether it's hands-on, financially, emotional support, in any way that will relieve you of taking on the entire responsibility, have those conversations early, because there may be some folks that just don't want to be a part of it. And this often happens where caregiving falls on just one person. So you need to know who and what you have available to help care for your loved one and for yourself well. Next slide, please. So we talked about the team. Some folks live long distance. I have friends who are long distance caregivers. I have some who live close by, but they don't necessarily want to be involved in caregiving. I've heard it all. But if you could find people that can pool their talents and strengths, maybe somebody likes working with numbers, again, if they're in a given industry, or they like to cook. There are many people that love to cook, and cooking is a joy for them. I love to cook, and my dad and I happen to love the same food. So that was easy for me. That was fun. Everybody has to eat. So we always enjoy conversations when I was cooking, and I'd go over, even though he was in assisted living, he liked my cooking better. So, okay. So since we like the same meals, that was a fun thing for us to do. We always were able to have good conversations. And just know that even though there were times when it was wonderful, there were times as a caregiver, to be completely transparent, I didn't want to do it anymore. I was getting older, and I'm thinking, where's my life? And I know that that's a common feeling. When am I going to get back to my life? The more you can simplify the caregiving process and start early, the less pressure you will have later, because you'll have some things in place. You've done some strategic planning, who's available to you, and it'll just be easier. It's not always going to be a perfect situation, but you'll at least know that you have someone and some resources available to assist you if needed. Next slide, please. So again, determine the number of people on your team, and then assign roles and responsibilities. based on a particular person that has a gift or a skill, or they're working in a specific industry, or something that they love to do where they can contribute in the 5 activities of daily living. If you have friends that don't work or retired, maybe they can help with the responsibilities of, driving them to a doctor's appointment on occasion. If you're working full time and they're retired, maybe they'd be willing to do that. And again, it's just making sure you know who's going to be doing what during the process early. Next slide, please. Make a plan. Again, go through all the steps. Who's going to be doing the appointments? Who's going to be managing the medications? Really should be one person, especially if there's multiple meds that the loved one is taking. Who's going to be cooking and managing the living arrangements? Are the folks, is your loved one going to be living with you, a family member, or are you going to have to consider assisted living if you have the financial ability to place them in assisted living if necessary? Do they really want to stay at home? Great. What resources are available to bring in? Maybe a paid caregiver 2 or 3 times a week, maybe just to clean or cook or take them to doctor's appointments. And you want to make sure you start early making a plan. Next slide, please. Meet with your caregiving team, assess the goals and needs of your plan, and then delegate responsibilities and make sure that they're willing to stay in the game, because it's a long-term process and it may go on for years. Most of the time it does. And as I said, I was a caregiver for 14 years and it began gradually. And then after a while I had to quit my job. I could no longer manage my deadlines and work and care for my dad the way he needed care. So I made that choice. It was a hard choice to make in terms of letting go of what I'd worked so hard for. But in the end, I'm glad I made the choice I made, because you have your parents for a short time, and I would make the same choices again. But what I would do, knowing what I know now, I would have made plans earlier to make it easier, because it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, most rewarding, but there's always this push and pull of the love you have for the person that you're caring for, and the guilt and the frustration of not being able to get on with your own life. We all feel that and experience it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And if we find more effective ways and we have resources to care for the people we love, then it makes it a little bit easier. It's not perfect, but it makes it easier for everybody involved. Next slide, please. Include the person who will receive the care. Tips for the meeting, as we talked about earlier, make sure you know what their wishes are and their feelings. Keep everyone informed of the plan so everybody's on the same page, and make sure you take notes and follow through with those notes. If you're like a type A like me, keep detailed notes on everything, Excel spreadsheets, whatever, Word documents. Just make sure you have the plan in order so that everyone knows, if this happens, this is who will take care of it. If we need to do this, this is who we talk to, this is where we go, this is who we meet with. Make sure you have your plan laid out and everybody's on the same page. Next slide, please. Find support. It's important. We have to find support however we can find it. For some people, it's church. For me, I had a really good support system from some wonderful friends at church who stood with me. And for some people, it may be in some type of a group where you have a common hobby, or good friends that you've had for years. Just reach out. That's the key. Make sure you don't, I love that term. What was it? Toxic positivity. I've never heard of that term. What a great term. It was interesting. Sometimes we think we have to be so strong. I can handle it. Oh, you've got that. It's like, no, sometimes we don't have it and we don't feel like we can manage it, and we get depressed, and then we isolate, and then no one is cared for. You're not caring for yourself, and the person you love isn't getting cared for properly. Acknowledge your feelings, talk to somebody, reach out and let them know that I need help. And sometimes the help is readily available. Sometimes you have to ask people a couple of times, but sometimes it's just a matter of pride that we're afraid to say we can't do everything. Well, we can't do everything. And that's why these wonderful organizations exist. And the wonderful people who are on the presentation today are on sharing this information, because we love you. We're hearing your voice. Your voices are being heard. And we're here to let you know that you're not alone in your challenges. And so I would just encourage you to reach out and let someone know you need help, and then pray and watch the help come. We're here. We love you. You're loved and appreciated. Next slide. Locate community resources, consult a professional. Again, I would encourage you to go to aarp.org/caregiving. There are lots of resources on ARP's website. We also have what's called a Prepare to Care booklet. It's in multiple languages called Prepare to Care. You can find it at aarp.org/caregiving. There is also a Prepare to Care booklet for veterans. We have one for the LGBTQ community. We have one for, let's see, millennials, I believe, but there are several resources that you can find on AARP's web. Please reach out and let someone know you need help and access these free resources that are available to you just, the touch of, a click. So make sure you do that. Next slide, please. Hire help if you have the budget to do so, and secure, a safe environment. For me, I was really concerned about my dad's safety because he was leaving the oven on and the stove and water faucets, and he was forgetting to turn those off. So we made the decision to find a wonderful assisted living. It was basically, I guess you could say, a split between assisted living and independent living. They offered everything but medical assistance, but he was about 10 minutes from his hospital where all of his doctors practiced, so it was ideal. But he was in a safe, secure environment. It was locked at night, and of course there were other people on site. So for us, that was our decision. Find housing with supportive services. Again, I know that there are several resources available. Go to aarp.org/caregiving. There is information about where to go to find some supportive services for those of you who cannot afford assisted living and need some other alternatives. Next slide, please. Care for yourself. We can't emphasize self-care more. It's so important, especially during the pandemic when many people are becoming even more depressed. And in some cases, the mental health issues have gone up in concern. So we care about you too. And there's nothing wrong with, caring for yourself. If you don't care for yourself, then the person you love isn't going to receive good care, and you're going to decline, and then you're going to need a caregiver. So I would just encourage you, do everything you can. If you like to paint, if you like to get out and take a walk, if you like to attend an activity, do something where you're basically getting, your mental stimulation, your physical exercise, your emotional needs met. Maybe it's a support group of other caregivers. I happen to know there are many caregiver support groups on Facebook. Some of them you have to, request to come in, but just reach out. And this is a place where you can talk about what you're feeling without judgment. Many times caregivers are judged. Oh, well, it's your parent. Why would you feel, why do you resent caring for your parent? Well, we're tired. We're not getting any younger either, and we have lives. And so it's important to be able to vent and to share what you're feeling. So go on to Facebook and just type in caregivers groups, and you'll find a lot of support groups on Facebook that will allow you to vent if you don't have someone readily available to you locally. But however you find it, I would encourage you again, and I can't say this enough, reach out and share what you're feeling with someone so that you don't fall into that area of depression and compromise your emotional well-being, your mental health, and your spiritual well-being. Next slide, please. So Caregiver Resource Center, as I said, connect with ARP, aarp.org/caregiving. There's also a toll-free number there you can call, the 1-877-333-5885. There are people that you can talk to who will help guide you to where the information is on the website. If you get a little lost, there's a plethora of information available to you, and there's a resource line, and there are loving people who will be happy to guide you through the resource center so that you can acquire the information that you need for your specific circumstances. Also, if you want to contact me at my website, it's the50plustalk.com, THE50PLUS talk, TALK.com. You can email me directly from my website. If you have questions or you need guidance, be happy to provide that for you. And there are several resources and organizations on my website, actually on my Twitter page, where you can just go through, just scroll, and there are lots of organizations where I retweet free seminars for caregivers, resource lines, resources and information that you can acquire through these organizations. So you can also reach me at Twitter at the 50 Plus Talk at Lee Broadway, and I would be pleased to help you and guide you through any other requests that you have in terms of caregiving resources and information. Next slide, please. Okay, hospital and family caregiver law. This is great. So what this is required to do is record the name of a family caregiver before that loved one leaves the hospital. They have to notify the family caregiver if the loved one is to be discharged to another facility or back home. Sometimes they have to go into rehab, and that happened to my dad a couple of times. And so I think this was before this was actually signed into law. But in any case, now they have to make sure that someone is going to be caring for that individual, what the instructions are if they're going back home. Are there any prescriptions that need to be filled, or is there someone they need to contact, visiting nurses, so that the doctor can write a prescription for them to come in for maybe 90 days, additional education in terms of what is needed for the care of that individual before they're released, and of course, all appropriate instructions on post-hospital care. So there's a little card that ARP can send you. I believe you can get it online, but the hospital and family caregiver law, all hospitals are required to provide this information. They know about it. You can jot it down or call the resource center or Google them at aarp.org/caregiving, and they can talk to you about this as well. Next slide, please. And of course, my wonderful Associate State Director, Nina Harwell, provided this information, compiled it for us. I want to just let you know again that you're loved, you're appreciated, you are being heard, you're not forgotten. I'm thrilled to have been able to share this information with you. Again, please feel free to contact me either through ARP, or you can just email me from my website at the50plustalk.com. Be happy to get back with you. And I want to shout out to all my 50 plus and fabulous family. If you're on today, hi, I love you, and stay in touch. Blessings.
Oh my gosh, Lee, thank you so much for that information. It was powerful and informative. I was making notes, taking notes, because I remember I didn't have all that information when I was a caregiver. So this was really great, and we hope that you will join us at the end for some Q&A. But we thank you so much for your presentation, a wonderful presentation. And guys, can you do me a favor? Can you put your hands together for Lee today? Yes. Well, thank you. We'll see you shortly. So, okay, guys. So I hope that this conference thus far has been amazing for you, and I hope that you are putting up those likes and those hearts on your pages, and that you're continuing to share. If you need a bathroom break, feel free to go get your tea or go get your snacks. This is what's fun. The fun thing about having a virtual conference, because you can, wherever you're at, you can be on the couch, you can be in the yard, you can be wherever, and still be a part of this great conference. All right, so we're getting ready to transition a little bit. Again, we have another artist that's pretty amazing, and I've known this guy for, I don't want to say all of his life, but I've known him for, I met him, I was a part of the music department at a local church here in Los Angeles, and he was a teenager, I believe. And anyway, we've had a relationship over the years, and he has grown into, he's an amazing father, amazing husband. He's a local youth pastor, a motivational speaker, and he's a poet. And he, oh my gosh, guys, I can't, when I was making plans for this conference, Alexander James came across my mind, and I was like, huh. So I reached out to him and shared the vision, and he was like, Kev, whatever I can do. And so anyway, guys, he's here today, and we're going to go ahead and bring Alexander on now. My guy, how are you?
Hey, man, how are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm wonderful, and thank you for coming to the conference and being part of this conference. Your amazing gift. I know the people are going to be just touched. They're going to be
Man,
inspired.
I'm honored to be here, man. Thank you all for the invite.
Yes, yes, and so I'm excited. So I'm like, I'm a fan. I've known you like a very long time, and every now and then I drop by your Facebook or see what you're doing, and and I try to get my little snaps on while you're doing your poetry. And
Yeah, man.
so, so anyway, I'm gonna still be here with you if you don't mind. But
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna let you do your thing and go ahead and talk to the caregivers, all the attendees today. This is your floor, man. So you do your
I
thing. Do
appreciate
your
it.
thing.
Yeah, man. Well, first and foremost, just thank you all for having me in this space. This has been so important, and just given the times we're in, I think that it's good to just take a moment to take a breath, and be seen and feel heard, but also get useful information. So I just want to thank you all for putting this on. I think this is just timely and important. Now, I also want to say, um, as we're talking about caregiving and giving care, I've known Minister Kevin Milburn, for like most of my teenage to adult life. And he's heard me share this before, but I'm gonna share it again. I remember, man, being sick with rage. I remember being sick with anger and just discomfort and not liking myself and all that kind of but not in a regular teenagery kind of way. My uh, folks don't know this, but father wounds will fester if you don't attend to them. And my father wound was seeking to become toxic. It changed the way I spoke, the way I dressed, the way I dealt with people. And then, but my mom had good enough sense to keep me in proximity of church, So we're at a choir rehearsal one night, and I'm there physically, but mentally, y'all, I'm not there. I'm somewhere else. I'm in my head, and uh, the music director at the time, Kevin, just stops rehearsal. He just stops rehearsal and says, "Hey, Alex, can I talk to you?" And we went outside to the front of the church. I remember like it was, yeah, we sat on the steps of the church, and he just talked to me. And he was the first person to look me in my face and say, what if he wasn't supposed to be there, Alex? And I had never considered that. I had never considered that God was still in control, that things would be okay, even if I didn't have the ingredients that I desired. And that moment planted this seed in me that told me that maybe I didn't have to recreate that cycle. I didn't have to become that person. Um, so I bring that up to say that caregivers are people who see the pain or the discomfort of others and do something. They say something. They take that effort. They take that moment, and know it's not necessarily a medical situation, but it could have become. And so I just want to thank you publicly again, man, for that moment. I want you to know that last year I got an Airbnb, met up with my biological father at an Airbnb, looked him in his face,
Wow.
heard his story, finally forgave him, and we're both like walking in the freedom of forgiveness now. But I wouldn't be able to eat the fruit from that tree if you didn't plant that seed in me when I was
Oh
13,
man.
14, man. So I'm just so grateful again, for you and your family and your ministry. Um, you asked me to write a poem kind of dedicated to the caregivers. Um, and I pray that I do you and y'all justice as I share this. Um, Title of the poem is Healers. They say that you can measure the morals of people in two ways: how they treat their elderly and how they treat their children. In other words, you caregivers, you are how we measure the value of empires. You are the measuring rulers for the rulers. While, yes, the world needs its speakers to share and shape the truth, and yes, it needs its ministers who will use that truth to weave it into the minds of people. But if the people are not well, if the heart sinks and feels forgotten, if souls are limping and bruised, if their pride is more than wounded, if their mind is in a cast, broken, it is the healers that act as Holy Spirit, raise armies from the valleys of dry bones that we call neighborhoods or nursing homes or mom's house. Without the healers, do we expect them to hug with broken arms? While we are broken, even embracing is painful. You are the healers. And some will never understand what it is like to be you, to be instrument, to be manifestation of God's promises to his people. I want more than anything for you to feel valuable in this moment as you actually are. Caregivers, you are not David, but you are his harp, fine-tuned for the glory of God, resting in the hands of God's intentions. And wherever you are played, wherever you work, patience sings shattered pieces back together. How could he ever beat Goliath if he was never healed from the scars of the bear, of the lion, of being forgotten by his father? If they say they don't need healers, they're lying. Healers. When others just see barren lands and barren people, you see different. Your eyes that become pools of Bethesda, and wholeness finds anyone who swims too deeply in your gaze. You are the compassion of a savior who stops funerals to summon people from their coffins of their depression, of their dysphoria. You are people who have turned band-aids into banners. And though you all don't live in luxury, you have learned that health is wealth. And this makes you golden. When Christ called out for Lazarus, his voice echoed, calling the dead things back to life. And somehow that voice was still ringing in the melody of your hearts. And you have turned resurrection, put it into your fingertips as you work and stream and organize pills. Remember that your arms are the same ones that rolled the stones so reconciliation could walk among all of us. You are called to this. Where would we be if there was not a people who cared enough to give, to become caregivers? But how worse would we be if these people would not allow care to be given to them? So caregivers, I ask you to be kind to yourselves. You may be called to be a bridge, but not doormat. You are not called to drown so someone else can doggy paddle over the water that you have cried yourself. It does not serve you or your calling to give massages with broken fingers. Remember that you too must drink from the well that you ask others to swallow. You must learn that Sabbath is only journeying back to self when we have watered all other gardens other than our own. Know that the same God that gave the ocean a limit showed you that sand is where the waters must cease and called it good. We must acknowledge that our limits are gifts, that our boundaries are blessings, because you, caregiver, though you love, though you sacrifice, you are still human. So you need sleep and food and hugs and Netflix, all the essentials. That sometimes smiles are the best shovels to dig your way out of bad days. And when it's hard, go bury yourself in the bare hugs of a safe place shaped like a cousin or a coworker. Remember that family and friends are the best kind of flotation devices. Remember when Peter walked on water, he stayed above it as long as his eye stayed on the friend he had in Jesus. Healers, you are perfect, but sometimes you are the only folks you want on your team aren't the perfect, but the willing. And healers, you are willing, you are present, you are the comforters. So be present with the comforter. Thank you for being the healers.
Wow. Wow. Yes. Yes. Can I get some snaps? Yes. Can you guys give Alexander some hearts and some thumbs up and some man, this was an original um, piece of
Yes, sir.
art for this conference. And Alex, I want to thank you. First of all, your testimony had me in tears. I had to get off, and not so I wouldn't be a distraction. But man, I want you to know that you mean the world to me. You have grown up not only to be just an amazing poet, motivational speaker, minister, father, and a husband. Alex,
We'll be
oh
celebrating
my
6
God,
years in December.
oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And I'm a stalker because I go by your Facebook and I go check out your kids and your family. And you have such a beautiful family, man.
Thank you,
And
man. Thank you.
I feel so blessed to be connected to you. That poem, is there a way that people can get this poem later after the conference? Because this is
Yeah,
amazing.
man. Let's talk. What I can do is maybe I can get it. Maybe we'll work together and we'll get
Yes.
it printed on like a Kevin Milburn in partnership with Alexander James like little
Yes,
thing, and
yes.
then
Come
like you
on.
can sell it and like yeah, man, it's yours.
Listen, brother, we'll do this together, man. I appreciate you. I love you from my core. And if later, if you're available, no pressure, but you can join us at the end as we give a shout out to everyone, answer a few questions, just so that everybody can see your face. What is your website? Can you share your website information?
Yeah, man. So I'm actually redoing the site. We're doing a big launch. I just finished my first children's book. So we're actually
Nice.
launching that. It's called Alex the Big Fish. It's basically it's a story of I wanted to take the story of Jonah and the whale, but make the story about the fish instead of Jonah.
Nice.
And yeah, man. So I'll once that's ready, I'll make sure you get it. But you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's the letter B, the word honest. So be honest, or on Facebook as Alexander James. Just go through Kevin's friends and you'll find me.
Oh my gosh, man! Love, peace, love you, man. And Alex, we're family, forever. We'll talk soon.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
stay connected, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
you, and I thank you for taking this time out, brother. I love
I
you. We'll
appreciate it.
talk
You all
soon.
have a great
All right
for the
now.
rest of the conference.
All right, guys. I hope that this conference has been amazing to you. It has been amazing to me. I've been seeing your questions. I've been seeing your hearts, your thumbs up. I've been seeing like your responses, and it is amazing. And I just, again, the caregivers, you need to know this is for you. Again, this is National Family Caregivers Month, and so this was brought and put together, produced for you. And I'm glad that you can go back. You can go back to the Milburn and Associates Entertainment Group channel on YouTube, and you can watch it as many times as you want to. You can invite your friends, tell your friends if they couldn't make the conference, literally, but they can go back and recap. And so I'm just excited. We're moving right along in the conference, and I'm excited to be the host and producer of this great conference, and the great team, the production team that's on the backside of this, making all this stuff happen so that we look good. And I will share information later on. But again, this is the Virtual Caregivers Conference 2020, first annual. And so let's get ready for our next guest. So I'm excited about this presenter, and she's on so many levels, a mentor, an aunt, an advocate, so many things. I'm connected to her by way of marrying my beautiful wife, who then became a part of the Burrell family, and Dr. Burrell was born and raised in the Pentecostal Black church tradition and has served in numerous capacities, including ministries such as jail and hospital ministry, women's shelters, halfway houses, and other outreach ministries. Dr. Burrell is a pastoral counselor and psalmist. Okay, so she has an amazing bio, and I could read all this, but Her academic achievements, a BA in Religion and Leadership, Vanguard University, Master's in Theology, Fuller Theological Seminary, Master's in Divinity, Ashland Theological, oh my gosh, I know I pronounced that wrong, Seminary, and Doctorate in Ministry in Ashland Seminary. Dr. Burrell is President and CEO of Share Wisdom, a parachurch ministry that has birthed Seminary to Pew and Let's Talk About It ministries that address biblical, academic, spiritual, mental, and emotional needs outside of traditional education and therapy models. Dr. Burrell is an adjunct professor at Vanguard University at T.D. Jakes Divinity School. Dr. Burrell serves as professor at West Angeles Bible College and is a member of the board of directors of West Angeles Christian Education Board. Dr. Burrell is a teacher, preacher, guest speaker, psalmist, author, artist, and pastoral counselor. Dr. Burrell published literary work, 7 Reasons Why You Should Go to Church, The Power of God Daily Devotional, co-author, and Tapping Your Inner Beauty, co-author, and God is Faithful Stories That Inspire, co-author. Dr. Burrell is the devoted mother of 1 adult daughter and 2 gorgeous grandchildren. And Dr. Burrell is a committed servant of God. Okay, so let me tell you, as you bring Dr. Burrell on, and I just want you guys to know, Dr. Burrell, we are excited to have you a part of this today. Again, this is personal because not only is she Dr. Burrell, but she is Aunt Dr. Burrell, and so we love her by way, my wife and I, it's my wife's aunt, who my wife's father is her brother. And so we're not just connected, we're connected. And so on today, I am just so excited that you said yes. And listen, everyone on here has their caregiver story, but also Dr. Burrell was a former caregiver at one time. And so anyway, I'm not going to take any more. I'm going to ask that if you guys put your hands together, I'm going backstage and I'm going to sit here and listen to this wonderful presentation by Dr. Zenobia. So guys, can you put your hands together? And Dr. Burrell, I'm giving you the platform.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. That was just so wonderful. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm really humbled and honored to be asked to be a part of such a thoughtful, heartfelt effort in terms of remembering those that give care. My academic discipline is pastoral theology. Pastoral theology is a discipline that actually walks alongside people, giving care in whatever aspect of life they find themselves in. So it's kind of like pastors, kind of like all over the place. Pastors vary, how they are defined vary from faith to faith, from tradition to tradition. But that my training is fundamentally pastoral theology. So this was a perfect fit, in terms of me being asked to present. And then I also kind of unfortunately have this direct experience with caregiving because back in the 70s, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. She was a cancer patient. And I found myself at 18, 19 years old being a caregiver. Came out of nowhere. Caregiving for me, that level of caregiving, because I think caregiving has dimensions and levels. But, cancer was this unapologetic enemy. There was no apology, and it was unrelenting. I didn't even know about the Cancer Society until my mother got sick with cancer. I didn't even know the Cancer Society would help Black people, Gonna fix I didn't know the Cancer Society would help Black people back then. That was in the 70s, right on the heels of civil rights. But they did. They did. And I've donated to the Cancer Society ever since because it was so helpful, uh, providing just the practical things. In caregiving, you find that your needs become very practical. And with my mother, I had the honor, I had the privilege of serving my mother. Although it was a valley, it was a deep valley. It was very lonesome, although there was a house full of people, but it was lonesome because I internalized so much of the trauma, the unrelenting trauma that I was going through. There was a confusing element to it, because I understood, but I didn't understand. You know, Part of the pastoral theology is helping people with something called theodicy. Theodicy is God suffering. So there's this question that comes up when problems and trouble come up in life. And it's just fundamental to all human beings. And that question is, God, my God, why? God, why? My parent was a good person. My mother was a missionary in the church. My mother served God. My mother was this faithful wife. My mother was this amazing mother. She was the mother of all mothers. When it came to mothers, I got heaven's best. So why would she? Why her? Why my mother? This unfair side of life, uh, the questions we ask, and then those taboo questions, where you don't question God, it's according to what your faith tradition is. But mine was, not to question God. Well, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions. It just seemed like it was just so unfair. And then it happened when I needed her most. I didn't know how to be a woman. I was 19 years old. I had just graduated from high school. And here I am find myself in the middle of the night when, the disease had progressed. It progressed to the point where she needed care, immediate care. So, like I said, I watched her go from driving to not being able to drive to being in the house, sitting in the rocking chair, from the rocking chair to being bedridden, from being bedridden, able to get up and go to the restroom and bathroom, to being completely bedridden, and then being able to kind of mobilize herself in the bed to not being able to move in the bed because that enemy cancer ate her from the inside out. And there was nothing I could do about it. There was nothing I could do about it. You know, in my faith tradition, people say, pray about it. Pray about it. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. I don't know how much prayer helps when you're mad at the person you're praying to, because I had all these questions. You see, that this is the nature of theodicy. That's called God suffering. How do you pray to a God that you are asking questions, hard questions to? You don't understand that allowed this, yet you need that God's help. And so my discipline is I'm trying to help and assist people in faith crisis, but in a practical way, in the context of caregiving. I shared this to help you understand that you're talking to somebody who gets it. You're talking to somebody who gets it. Me and God, evidently we worked that out. My mother, I want to say one more thing about my mother, and then I'm going to go forward. The worst thing that happened to me ended up being the best thing that happened to me, because I didn't know that once she was gone and it was over, the trauma would reframe itself. so that I suffered from feeling relieved, but it wasn't politically correct because it was at the expense of her loss, her being gone. So it wasn't okay to feel better that the burden of caregiving was over. I want you to know I get it. So the trauma reframed itself. Now, the worst thing that happened to me was the best thing that happened to me, because now that I can reflect, and in seminary, something called retrojection. Retrojection is looking back and interpreting events. Okay. And I can retrojectively interpret the events. I didn't understand that the caregiving and the level of intimacy that I gave to my mother would be a gift to me later on. Somebody needs to hear me today. Was it easy? No. Were there any breaks? No. I remember my mother had a bell, and she would ring this bell. And in the middle of the night, the bell would ring, and I'd be in a deep sleep because I had sleep deprivation, because I was sleeping in the room with my mother because the disease had progressed to that extent. And I'd hear the bell, and the bell would wake me up out of a sound sleep. And I wake up wobbly because I knew Mama needs me. Mama needs me. And I feel my way in the dark, trying to get to my mother to help her for whatever she needed. Now, my mother was my beloved. She was my beloved. She was my best friend. She was my everything. So I really didn't mind caring for my mother. I honestly didn't mind. Somebody else might mind, maybe because their parent could be their abuser. And you find that you happen to help your abuser. Then when certain diseases progress, your abuser will spew out this toxic abuse with no filter. So, that's somebody's situation. I just described somebody's situation, and they feel very alone in it. But for me, my mother was my beloved. And so I had intimate moments with her, when I would assist her privately, assist her like she assisted me when I was a baby and I didn't even know she was doing it. It was those times. And even you'll find this a little comical, but one night I had such bad sleep deprivation. Oh, I was just so tired. I heard the bell and I jumped up, and just kind of robotically trying to find my way in the dark to my mother. And back then, the beds had this crank on it, the hospital bed, the Cancer Society giving us a hospital bed. And so the crank kind of protruded out of the back into the bed. And I ran straight into that crank. It just hit my shin. And I'm telling you, and fell back into the bed and just moaning and groaning and rocking back and forth. And my mother laid there and laughed till she cried. I mean, we had moments. And I still got up, assisted her, good attitude and all that, because she was my beloved. And now I'm comforted because I had this privilege in her absence. I have this warmth in her absence to know I did everything humanly possible to help my mother when she needed me most. It was selfless. It was rough. It was tough. It was hard. It was unrelenting. And the moment she passed, I was shocked. And you would say, "Why are you shocked? You knew it was coming." It's a shock. It's a shock. Just the reality of it. And I'll tell you, it's an experience that I couldn't talk to you today. I couldn't talk to any caregiver in an empathetic way, in the throes of the trauma, in the valley of the trauma and the emotional trauma, without having gone through it. So for that reason, if it had to be, I take the lemon and I make lemonade today. I trust that I'm saying something to someone that's speaking to you where you are and what you're going through. I want you to know, understand something. You are not your trauma. You are not your trauma. You're going through trauma. But there's your trauma, which is the caregiving aspect of your life and what the obligations, responsibility, all of the stress that comes with that. There's that. And then there's you. And although that pulls you and tugs you and grinds you and wrestles you and does all those things to you and makes you feel the trauma, you feel it, but you don't have to be trauma. You are not your trauma. Your trauma is a part of your life. And if you objectify it, step outside of it, look at it, see it for what it is, and say, that is what it is. And yeah, I'm going through that, but that's not who I am. I made my trauma me. This is where I'm sharing this with you. I made my trauma me. And it took me years to unwrap myself out of that false identity. I want to say to somebody today, objectify it as much as you can, although you're feeling it and it's an abyss. It's an abyss. I know it is, but you don't have to identify with it. Okay, so another component that I want to talk to you about today is how important it is to be honest with yourself. I was very honest a moment ago when I was talking about theodicy. Sometimes you have to be politically incorrect because that's all you got. Sometimes family members, family systems vary from system to system. Everybody's family is unique to how they have identified their system. So it's not one size fits all. When people say, oh, in your family, your friends and support, they don't understand sometimes that's the last place you want to go because the support is not there. And then there's the added stress of knowing it's not there when it should be there. Sometimes you might get one family member that's helpful, or a couple of family members, or extended family members. Okay, so this is what I want to suggest with that, because I'm trying to be pastoral and walk alongside you during this caregiving journey. Pick and choose, use your best discretion and pick and choose who's qualified to help you right now. Because what really matters is what helps. Who helps and what helps. Doesn't matter if you're supposed to be in place, but you're not in place. Okay, if I identify that, okay, you say for instance, for example, you're my brother, and our father is ill, and you're a man. Why am I caring for daddy when you're a man? You should be helping. And say for instance, brother is not helping. Okay, the best thing I could do with that is identify the fact that brother is not there. Brother is not helping. So what do? I step away from that. Why? Because it doesn't help me to stay in it. Step away from it. Go to plan B. And if it's not plan B, you need plan C. Because all of your energy has to be allocated in such a way right now that is helpful. You got to employ wisdom. Sometimes you got to leave the feelings alone and deal with the facts. And when you're caregiving, facts are so central. And energy, your energy is so important. you don't have energy to waste. So you've got to. One way to really have good self-care is to make good decisions. What's best? What's in the best interest? So here we go. We got two people caregiving. I'm the caregiver and the care recipient. We're in trauma together, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. And I got this sole responsibility and this heavy weight, that I'm carrying, because I may not have cancer, but because of the level of stress that I'm undergoing, because of the type of care that I have to give, I could get cancer. My immune system can get so compromised that something can come on me. So what is the most important? I've got to think. I've got to be as resilient as possible. I've got to save my energy for what I'm in and for who I'm in it with. So I may not directly have cancer, but I have the burden of cancer. I may not have Alzheimer's, but I have the burden of Alzheimer's. They're real things. It's real. It's real. You may not have the disease itself, but you have the burden of the disease through caregiving. So what do I need to do? Because I have this unrelenting heavy burden, I must make good decisions, not only for me, but for the care recipient as well. I'm not caring for two. I'm caring for one. I'm caring for two. And so you need all of your energy and then some for that. So I can't waste it on misbehaving family members. I can't waste it on anybody who drops the ball and doesn't come through. I can't waste my energy on crying and complaining and on the phone for hours talking about how somebody should be ashamed of themselves, this and that. You on the phone for hours talking about somebody who should be ashamed of themselves for not coming through because the family system is compromised by somebody who dropped the ball, when that's an hour you could have taken a nap. That's an hour you could have reached out for resources. That's an hour that you could have better used. Food preparation, some kind of hygiene exercise, some kind of self-care exercise for you. You could have read a book, a good book. You could have watched a Netflix series. I think Miss Broadway or somebody mentioned about Netflix. What am I saying? I'm saying that choose what is helpful for you and the person you're giving care to in the immediate. Choose well. Choose well. Resist being pulled into any kind of negative pathologies. Resist that. Intentionally resist it. Okay, all right. Okay, if you can't do it, I get it, no problem. I mean, and then I think it's so important. I want to move into this phase of it. It's so important to not silently suffer. Silent suffering is kind of like sleep deprivation. It just happens to you, and you're the only person who experiences this deprivation when you need some kind of added support, because you can only go so far with that because you're just a human being. You're just a human being. So at some point, what is going to be helpful? What is going to be helpful is reaching out. Let me just call that number, that 800 number on AARP. I know I may not get what I'm looking for, but I won't know unless I try. Let me Google caregiving hotlines. Let me make an effort to reach out instead of silently suffering. silently suffering. Why? It doesn't help. It doesn't help. This is a time in life where you need help. And if you can't help yourself, then what will help? Maybe somebody else will help if I cry out, if I make it known, if I seek it, if I'm not too proud, if I let the wall down, if I'm not too proud to let somebody else in and say, because sometimes just a little bit of help makes a world of difference. Okay, so I'm going to be wrapping it up. I hope I'm saying something that's helpful to you. But I wanted to say to you about the family thing. I know that family thing is real. And we all from time to time deal with family dynamics. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're awful. But when you're caregiving, you need to avoid the awful. Bottom line, because sometimes when you really need them to act their best, they're acting their worst. So you focus on what helps. And one of the things that helps is you learn how to tap your faith. Now, some people have faith, some people have a lot of faith, some people have very little faith. So it's according to how you view faith. So there are different ways to tap your faith. One is to meditate. And like I said, your faith tradition is whatever it is, but meditation is across the board. Uh, and meditation is not just necessarily staring into the sky, but meditation is a stealing of yourself. And if you don't know how to do it, Google knows everything. So you can Google how to meditate. Simple as that. I've learned here lately the relevance of God in nature. How God is there's this animation in nature that just going to the beach sometimes and sitting, or sitting by looking at a live plant, being up under a tree, sitting in the park, watching goldfish, whatever the case may be. You can connect to your faith through nature. Just the therapy of being in a natural environment will it somehow uh, lift you, lift your soul, lift your spirit. Okay. The other thing is there's some people who connect to faith through scripture. And I always say you're not reading the Bible until it's reading you. So you don't want to just read through it. You want to actually enter into the ethos of the holiness of scripture. Okay. I don't have time to go deep into that, but you want to just, you can read it and meditate on its words and just kind of really think and let yourself ponder and ask questions. What does this mean? What does this mean? Instead of just giving it an empirical read. Okay. The other way is we have some awesome music today. Music is another way. Any music that lifts your soul is tapping your faith. And the stillness is so important. I've got a spiritual discipline now. I do every morning. I get up right between 6 and 7, sometimes earlier than that, and I just learned to sit. I've learned to sit. I just sit with God. I sit, and in the stillness, the realness of my feelings and my emotions come up, and I'm able to connect to God within myself. And it's an amazing, awesome, wonderful inner life experience that I've developed. Stillness. There's been times when things were really bothering me deep. And as I sat in stillness, those thoughts came up. And instead of being, when I was angry about something, in the stillness, my anger was an overcoat for my grief and disappointment, and my tears came. The tears begin to cleanse my soul because I sat still long enough for all of those emotions to line up and appropriate themselves in me. And I was able to release those feelings, release those feelings. I had to let them come up in order to identify them and then release them. So the tears were therapeutic. The tears help. Sometimes you need a good cry. And you may know what you're crying about. Sometimes you don't, but we get our love tank gets low, and your love tank gets low. And then look, some of you are losing your beloved right before your very eyes, and you're helpless. That brings on grief, and grief and trauma, and so you're losing in a very complex way, and you're losing all at the same time. You're losing your beloved. You're losing life as it was. You're losing life for what it could be. You're losing the future because you know you're gonna have your future without your beloved. You're losing, and sometimes you must cry it out, and then you'll feel better. So sometimes just sitting and stillness and tears and being honest with yourself and honest with God. And there's something very magical that happens in those moments. Because let me tell you what scripture says, and hopefully you believe in scripture. Some of you do, some of you don't. For those of you that do, guess what scripture says? God is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves the crushed in spirit. That's Psalm 51. Psalm 51. God is close to the brokenhearted. He saves the crushed in spirit. So what is that psalm teaching? Because Psalms is wisdom literature. It's saying that God doesn't abandon. God doesn't forsake. All of these down feelings, depressed feelings, all of this trauma may cause you to put up a wall and not feel God, feel the comfort of peace, feel because all the other stuff is covering up. But when you get still or when you break, and the tears and the weeping, in the moment of weeping, in my own experience, to my own experience, sometimes when I've cried my hardest, I've had my greatest breakthroughs emotionally. Somehow God shows up. How does God show up for me? Because God shows up in a relational way. How he shows up for me may not show up for you like that. But you know your God story. You know your God journey. You know how God shows up for you. God shows up for me in a way of presence and peace. And all of a sudden, I have this calmness that I can't explain. I don't know where it came from, but I have it. I have it. My thoughts become more clear. So I say, tap your faith. Tap your faith at times like this, and learn to not because it doesn't silently suffer because it doesn't help. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Now I'm going to hurry on because I know my time is going fast, and this is something I wanted to share. So I found, you guys, guess what? I found this recent article in the LA Times. Yeah, I didn't even know the LA Times, I guess, is online now. It's a support group for women on the front lines of the caregiving crisis. I'm reading this. I'll show you what I'm reading. Y'all see what I'm reading. I'm reading off of here. Okay. And so here's this lady. She's 67 years old. Her husband was a Korean War veteran, and her husband developed dementia and Alzheimer's, and she had lupus and arthritis, right? And so she got to this point in her caregiving for her husband, that she couldn't put on the compression socks that help him with his circulation. I guess the socks are kind of hard to maneuver because he had all this what do you call it when the water backs up in your legs? Is toxemia. You see, I'm trying to keep my hairdo together, and these beats by Dr. Dre not staying on good and messing up my hair, trying to mess up my presentation. Y'all, you're laughing at me? I know you're laughing. Okay, so this lady broke. She broke because she was trying to put the socks on and she got exhausted in the moment because her arthritis and the lupus was kicking in and she couldn't put her husband's socks on. And so she just started crying and she said, I can't do it. Well, he laid down to try to help her. He couldn't reach it. He couldn't reach it to help her. And it says that it was around that time last fall during the days of back-to-back ER visits, she started to feel lightheaded from stress. And she realized that she had not taken care of herself and she got exhausted. She got to the end of herself and she had this pamphlet that she had laid on the table. I don't didn't even remember where she got it from. She picked the pamphlet up, and it was a pamphlet from the First African American Episcopal Church, First AME, that had this support group for caregivers. So she was at the end of herself. So she said, I'm just going to call it, I'm just going to call these people and just inquire. She reached out instead of silently suffering. She reached out because it was too much. It got to be too much. So she called. She says, I'm Helen. She ended up going to the group and she says, I'm Helen and I'm a caregiver for my husband who has Alzheimer's. And when I have to remind him to eat or nap, she told the women around the wooden table, I feel like I'm caring for a child again. The group leader offered her an encouraging nod and told her, welcome to the caregiver world. The leader is an 86-year-old woman who had her own backstory, but she developed this caregiving group at First AME, that partnered with USC. USC, because they're in the West Adams district, US in Los Angeles. So USC has the Family Caregiver Support Center. It's one of 11 state-funded caregiver resource centers. She had learned about it years earlier, and she ended up partnering the church with USC's Family Caregiver Support System. So this woman, her name is Miss Wynn, that found the support group. She went to her first meeting and she was talking about her husband's health conditions. And in the moment, she heard the leader of the group say, I'm listening. I hear you. And that started her journey for getting connected to real help. It's not enough for me as a pastoral theologist to tell you, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you. Prayer does work. Prayer, it does meet my spiritual needs, but it does not speak to my psychological needs. And there are also physical needs, practical needs. Listen, if I need to staple something, I need a stapler. Why? Because it meets the need, right? If I need Kleenex, this meets the need, right? If I need to make a phone call, I need the tool that meets the need. If I'm hungry, I don't want you to tell me I'm going to pray for you. Don't pray for me. Go get me something to eat. Go get me something to eat. There comes a time in caregiving, it's just practical. And your need needs to be met with the appropriate tool to meet it. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes your need is support with watching your loved one, watching as in caregiving for them. The needs are all over the place. Miss Wynn connected to First AME support group that's basically for African American people because they're in that ethos, okay? So you want to find something that's culturally competent, something that's going to be to really be substantive help. And it changed everything for her. So the reason why I brought this up is because caregiving, and especially during the COVID crisis, caregiving in California is escalating by leaps and bounds. The need for it. People are losing jobs. Um, the boomers are now in our senior years. You know, as you can tell, I'm a boomer fighting this. Who fights the headphone? No, nobody but a boomer. You know, you got to forgive me because I'm so old. Thank you. Because we do tech stuff. We do crazy tech stuff. We're known for crazy tech stuff. So I get a pass. Uh, Caregiving and the need for caregivers is escalating, yet the resources are descending, and especially in California. And so support groups like this partnering with I'm almost at AARP, which is a good partner, but with First AME and USC is something very tangible and something within reach. AARP within reach. And I want to encourage you today, as I'm going to do my wrap up. I was going to share this whole thing, but I'm going to wrap up. Don't just sit there and suffer silently. Don't just sit and meditate and pray. You need to reach out and make an effort. And let me show you how your prayer is going to be answered. God is going to send the right person or the right people. Do you know that God uses people? So he's going to send the right person and the right people at the right time to connect the dots, to walk alongside you in your caregiving journey in a way that's designed just for you, just for you. My need is different than your need. Your need is different than my need. But I believe personally, God sees everybody's needs. And if you just make that step and reach out and open your heart, open your mind, open your situation. Don't think your situation is so unique. Nobody gets it. That's not true. Somebody is going to get it, and somebody is there within your reach. So you want to reach out to First AME Church, USC Family Care. What did I tell you? USC, I'll give you the name of it again. USC Family Caregiver Support Center. There is a bridge between USC and First AME Church through this particular support group where you can have access to all kinds of help, state funded help that's interpreted for you and your particular need. So look them up. Don't be afraid, and know that God has assigned people everywhere that's praying for you and you don't even know it. Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate this time to being able to help. Hopefully I helped somebody because I sure did try.
Yes, you did. Oh my gosh, it was an amazing moment of empowerment. And I guess this is just a perfect time to segue into our next presenter, which is my nephew. Kristen Moore is a producer, singer, songwriter, travels all over the country with Israel, the New Breed, and you know, so I know that people will you'll say, okay, yeah, you call this person nephew and you call this person, but this is actually one of the 10 children of my sister and brother-in-law, and he's the baby boy, and so I felt led to reach out to Kristen, and what is amazing, he wrote a song especially for this conference. So I'm not going to hold any time. Is Kristen, are you there?
Hey, Unc, I'm here.
Hey,
I'm here.
oh my goodness, my nephew. Okay, I can't look down because I want to look at your face. This is my twin because it's so good to see you.
It's good to
But
see you.
listen, thank you for being a part of this conference, and thank you for writing a song from your soul, from your spirit. He had texted me the song, a piece of the song, and I was already in tears. And he it was so kind to even, he was little when my mother was alive, and so just the fact that my nephew was able to say thank you for being a caregiver, Uncle Kevin. I was like, what? I was like, oh, thank you. But anyway,
Wow, wow.
he's a special young man, and so guys, without further ado, I'm going to present to you Kristen Moore.
Wow, wow. Hey, thank you so much for having me, Uncle Kevin. And this song is dedicated to all the caregivers out there. Everything you do is not in vain. You're caring for a life that's in much pain. Why does it feel like standing in the rain? Will sunshine ever make it to the day? Every day there's some high and some lows. You're hurting, but you smile, that's just the way it goes. You're hoping that they'll make it through the night, and praying everything the next day will be alright. You may not feel so good inside, and there are times you want to cry. You've given everything that you can give, and it still feels it's not enough. But one thing you should know, every single thing that you have done, we know by the love you show, your care, your heart. You should be proud that someone had you by their side. Still, you may not feel so good inside, and there are times you want to cry. You've given everything that you can give, and it still feels it's not enough. So caregiver, you're more than enough. Although you may not see it now, although some days are rough, please don't give up now, because the world needs you right now. Other people turn and walk away, but with your help, they'll make it through the day. Thank you, caregiver. Thank you, caregiver. Hey, thank you, caregiver. Thank you, caregiver. We appreciate you. Thank you, caregiver.
Woo! Oh my goodness, Kristen, that was amazing.
Wow,
You
thank
got
you.
me. Oh my gosh! And so I know the last time that we talked, you were talking about recording this to make it available to caregivers. Are you still making plans to do that?
Yes, sir. It is actually in the process of being mixed and mastered as we speak right now. I just thought it'd be an incredible thing to have the song available, especially for all that you guys do. I say you as well, Uncle Kevin, for what you've done. I'm just completely have so much gratitude for what caregivers do. So yeah, it'd definitely be available.
Oh my gosh, Kristen, that song, we were backstage like screaming and texting each other like, oh my gosh, tears.
Oh wow.
I'm trying to keep myself together.
Yes, sir. Yes.
But it's an amazing song. And so
Thank you.
just so that you know, caregivers, you guys, you are loved. You're not by yourself.
Yeah.
And so, Kristen, will you join us at the very end? Will you join us at
Absolutely.
the
I'll be
very
here.
end? Okay.
I'll be
All
here.
right. All right. We're going to be wrapping up in the next 10 minutes. But I just wanted to say to all of you that are out there as caregivers, this is going to be my Let's Talk Caregiving moment. Caregiving isn't easy, and caregiving is a journey. And if I had the opportunity to talk to myself 20 plus years ago, I would have then thought about myself, and yes, you are selfless and you are thinking about the one that you are caring for. But one thing that I didn't realize as a caregiver, I didn't realize that I wouldn't always be a caregiver the rest of my life. And so what I didn't do, I didn't look into my future, and I didn't have anybody to tell me, you need to look into your future 20 years from now. You need to plan, for your future. I didn't know. My therapy was writing a memoir. And so I didn't know that it was going to one day be a book. I wasn't planning to write a book, but I was on a journey. And so if I could say now, that I would tell myself to think about, my finances, think about, where I wanted to go and where I wanted to be after the journey of caregiving, and so there's a lot of subjects that were touched today. And I want to encourage you to replay this session, this conference, and get the nuggets. But I want to say to you, do not forget about yourself in this process. Have real talk. I talk to a lot of caregivers. I talk to a lot of groups and brothers and sisters trying to figure it out. We all had to try to figure it out. There's no blueprint. Everybody's story is their story. And the one thing that I realized that it was my journey, but it didn't leave me broken. But what could have helped me in my journey would be planning, and I know that those caregivers, you're in a state of shock and just trying to survive. We're in survival mode. I remember a time when I was working a job, taking my mom to daycare, coming home, cooking, standing in the kitchen when my mother was feeding the dog. I've had her plate of food and she was feeding the dog. We didn't have a dog, but she was talking to the dog. She was saying, "Here, dog," and I was so frustrated while I'm washing dishes and the puddle of food, the stuff that was on the floor, because guess who had to clean that up? It was going to be me that had to clean that up, and it was so frustrating. To the point where I had to blurt out a prayer. If this is what you created me for, I'm okay. I'm okay with it. If this is what this is, then this is just my life. This is part of my journey. I look at my life now and I look back then. It was a process. It changed my heart. It made me better. I'm better because of it. I look at it now that I'm able to share stories and bring pieces together like a conference and share from my book and just share with other caregivers. I want you to know it's not the end of the road for you. And I want you to know that it's about mindset. If somebody would have told me some of the things that I know now as far as my mindset and not being caught in the situation where I can't think and I can't think about my future, you better think about your future. Had I thought about saving financially, even if I had saved $25 a month or $100 a month during that time, when the journey was over, there would be certain situations that would be different in my life. And so I'm saying this to say to you, think about yourself. Make yourself a priority. I know you're taking care of somebody. I know that you're loving on your love and you're doing the best that you can. But you got to do the best that you can for you. Put yourself on your priority list while you are a caregiver. It can be done because it's about mindset. If someone would have told me that back then, I think there was a lot of things that would be different for me in my life today. I'm blessed though. I'm blessed. You know, a lot of things that I lost, I have been restored. I have a beautiful wife. I have beautiful children. I have an amazing job, an amazing company, and so I am blessed. But I want you to know that I haven't forgot about the journey, and I haven't forgot about the struggle. I haven't forgot about the disappointments, but it's been the fuel for why I'm here today. And so I want to encourage those of you that are changing your parents' diapers. I remember a time when my mother didn't want to get into the shower. And so guess what I had to do? I had to go down to the swap meet and get some rain pants, some plastic, and I would pick her up and put her in the shower and stand in there and to make sure that, because I was not going to have my mother smelling like anything. I wanted my mother to be well kept and well groomed. I took her and got her nails done and made sure that she looked presentable. Point being is you do what you gotta do, but don't forget about you. And so I am just ecstatic. I know that we are pressed for time, and I want to encourage you to visit my website, www.caringheartsnetwork.com. If you want to give a donation to our cause, where we are doing things for caregivers, we're feeding, there's a lot of things that the Caring Hearts Network that we put our hands to. But this is a project that is very dear to me. Why? Because I understand being a caregiver. And all of these great individuals that came on today, they understand the different facets of caregiving and giving themselves. And then there's this thing I want to tell you is that, you know, everyone is going to experience it at a level. And I want to encourage you, have the talk. Parents, if there are senior citizen parents on this conference, or if there's parents who are not yet senior citizens, but you know, if you're in the late 40s, 50s, and you have kids you should have the conversation. You should have the conversation. I have a real talk moment with different families that want to have a talk, and there's sometimes when there's brothers and sisters that come together, and so they have their gripes why they feel like they should be the child, but most parents really know who the child will be that they could trust to take care of them. You know, if you really like blow the smoke away, you know which ones are going to be that will take care of you, and you know, and it's no slight from the other ones, but there is the one that will lean into it, or two or three, and maybe you have kids that'll teamwork, and that's even better. But I just want to encourage you, those of you that are out there by yourself, you feel lonely, I want you to know there is a world full of people who are just like you. A world full of people just like you. And I want to encourage you, as you're going through the process of your caregiving journey, get the resources. Because at the end of the day, you're writing your own life story. All right? You're writing your own life story. And it doesn't end at caregiving. You got to have enough strength to look around the corner and get ready. Because better days are coming. It's going to get better. It's going to get greater. It won't always be like this, but I want to encourage you. Okay, so listen, as we are transitioning, I'm going to talk to our stage manager. Can we start bringing everybody on the queue to where everybody can see everybody? Hi guys. I want to give a shout out to Agency West on today. Ryan Sims for this great presentation and allowing it. These are guys. Hi. It's good to see all of you on today. I know that there were some people that were out there that had questions, and I didn't want to I didn't want to move forward without the questions being answered. Okay, so and then let me say this, because Ryan's going to cue this up, because we're going to, when we end this, we're gonna clap our hands and get ready and party out to Lean on Me. Is that okay? But because it's a celebration. It's about caregivers. We love you. Lee said it just amazing. She said, we love you. We appreciate, we're so thankful for all the things that you are doing. We want you to know, don't give up, don't give in. You're not by yourself. There are resources out there. I'm so, Dr. Burrell, oh my gosh, thank you. You are amazing. Dr. Denise, Alfreda, Lee, Kristen, oh my God, Alexander. Thanks to my wife, Latanya. Thank you for being there. She's our production manager on the Milburn and Associates and entertainment side of things. Questions. I know that there were some questions that came through. Latanya, did you see any questions that we needed to address, or any of you see any questions that we needed to address? And if so, I want to give you that moment to answer those questions. Just wave at me if you. Any questions that were out there? I saw some floating, and we'll go back through we'll actually go back through the show, and we'll answer some of the things on Facebook and direct those to our website. Want to remind you guys, on Sundays, Dr. Burrell, can you share about your show on Sundays?
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I do a live radio show called It's About the Truth with Dr. Z. It's a show that seeks truth with a capital T in every discussion. It's on www.acceleratedradio.net, and it's a live program, and I teach from a plethora of subjects. It's every Sunday live, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Yes, and Lee, okay, so now you have a show also. I want you to give a shout out to your show also.
So thank you so much, Kevin. We're in development right now, and the 50 Plus Talk will do a lot of what we did today. We're going to be talking about issues and solutions for caregivers, and also for many, many other topics for the 50 plus demographic. So we're ramping up, and as soon as we're live, I'll let everybody know.
Perfect. Alfreda, you want to go ahead and plug your company?
Yes. You know what I do want to plug? I want to plug this portfolio that we have. It's a portfolio. It organizes everything that you need to organize as a caregiver. And it also has what Lehigh was talking about it has a page where you can list everything that you have so that people will know that it is. I'm giving this away for free. I have a few left. I have about 5. Kevin, if you want to send me emails or I can send them to some caregivers that really need this. This is very vital. On December 6th, I am having a workshop called Transitional Planning. I wish I could get some of you to be a part of that, but we'll do a part 2 and give a bit of it. 6 o'clock, transitional planning, and we'll talk about a lot of different things, as well as we'll have a therapist there who will be helping some people through some grief issues. So we'll get more information about that to Kevin as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Dr. Denise, what do you have for the people?
Well. First, I would like to say thank you so very much. I'm honored to be a part of this platform. Kevin and Tanny, you are phenomenal. This is very much needed. People need to understand that they are not in this alone, that there are resources out there to support them. And I want to say you can go to my website, www.deniseburkhart.com. I am an author. I have a book that I have been a part of the book compilation project. And the title of my chapter is Broken, but Not Beyond Repair, Grieving the Loss of a Loved One. Also, I do sell gourmet salads. And I do want to give a disclaimer. I am Dr. Burkhart Unloading. I haven't finished the doctoral program, but I'm on my way.
Yes.
So just thank you so very much for having me, allowing me to share my story of being a caregiver. My mom was also in-home supportive services caregiver. Well, she worked for the Los Angeles County, and she went in and she did assessments, and she helped caregivers with resources. So
Mm.
just honored to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Kristen, do you have something to say for the people before we get out of here today?
Again, just thank you for having me. Really appreciate the invitation. And man, again, thank you for all the caregivers for what you do. And yeah, can't wait till the next one.
Yes, sir. Next year. Alexander, what do you have to say for the people?
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, Alexander, so you can go to my page, and I'm going to give a shout out to all the those that were a part of this today. Latanya Milburn, what do you have to say to the people today?
I am so proud of you. I don't think I have the privilege of living with Kevin, and I want the world to know he's the same person at home that he is everywhere else. He's just that spectacular. The attention to detail, the way he cares for us. Um, and I'm so grateful for him and the opportunity to know that he's the real deal and that he really means it with his whole heart. And I think it's so special to have something like this. The Caregiving Month means so much more to me now, considering the current crisis the world is in and how people are suffering and almost kind of fighting the air. It's this funny mixed bag of fear and apprehension and sometimes you feel alone, but it's beautiful to know not only are there resources and practical information to help you, but people who actually do care for you from their core, that love you just because you breathe, just because that's God's intention. And I can say that's my husband's heart, and I'm proud of him. I am ecstatic to have heard all of the information from all of you. It is life changing moments like this. And every single moment from every one of you did something special to me in my core. And it'll keep playing back in my head tonight and tomorrow. And I hope people keep watching this over and over and over again because it is a life giver. It helps to sustain, support, and build us up. And that's what we want to keep doing. So I'm looking forward to the next one. I love you, baby. I love all of you.
Love you too.
Congratulations.
Can
Thank
I
you.
add
And
one more thing? I just
yes,
wanted
yes.
to get, I know you had your website, but can you talk a little bit more about how people can sow into your ministry and what you are doing?
Sure, absolutely. Again, if you want to go to www.caringheartsnetwork.com, there's a giving tab there through PayPal, and so not only do we do platforms like this, but we provide food for Thanksgiving events. We provide food for the homeless, and there are a lot of times that we have those that will call us directly because we served, my wife and I, we served a ministry in Hyde Park, and we have a lot of families that are still there, and they might call us sometimes, and because I love people, I will show up. We have one member or that is family, and so she said she'd like some of Pastor Kev's spaghetti, and I made a pot of spaghetti for her, and took it on over because that's who we are, and not only
Yeah.
me, but everyone that's on this call that I'm connected to. We all are like-minded people, and it's about others. So if you want to help us reach people and put on programs like this. There's so much work to be done. Again, so I mentioned during the conference that I would give out 5 books, and I think Tracy Jordan was the first. She was the first attendee of the conference this morning. So Tracy, I got a book for you. I want you to go to info@milburnentertainment.com and send your address, and you have a book coming and a little something else. Okay. Also, I believe Sister Charmel had sent someone to the conference, and I want you to send you emailed me earlier this week, but I want to make sure I'm going to give you a book also. And so I want to hear from you. I want to know how this conference was a blessing to you. I want to give a shout out to Agency West. Ryan Sims, thank you, sir. You are amazing for partnering with Milburn and Associates Entertainment Group. And I'm so grateful because when I shared the vision with him, he said, "We can do it, Kev." And so here it is. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to bring all these pieces today. Every single one on you on this on this platform, I want you to know that I love and I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful and thankful for you that you were able to join with me to bring this to caregivers. Caregivers, we love you. And so to end this festive event, I want you to keep smiling though. This festive event, we're going to go back to that wonderful, that beautiful song that Charmel Cofield submitted earlier. Ryan, can we all go out with "Lean on Me" together? Guys, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for this.
We all have pain. We all have sorrow. But
Be encouraged
we are wise,
and don't give up, because we're in this
know
together.
that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Oh, please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on.
Thanks, Chanel.
For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, sister, if you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Oh, if there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, and I'll share that load if you just call me. Yeah, call me if you need a friend. Call me if you need a hand. I'll be right there if you call me. Whatever you need, I will be right there, baby. Just call me, call.
Bye, guys.
Me,
Bye.
yeah.
Bye, guys. We'll see you
Please
next
call
year.
Call me.
Hopefully before then.
Right. All right, guys. Have a great one.
All right.
We
Bye-bye.
appreciate you.